All right, Highway 109 right now. We are seeing reports that multiple southbound lanes at Eastgate Boulevard are going to be closed due to a crash. You got Highway Patrol on there. Thompson Station, right lane block, 65 southbound near the Thompson Station Road overpass. TDOT reporting a crash there. West Nashville, we got Briley Parkway southbound at Robertson Avenue. Gallatin Pike northeast of Conference Drive in Goodlettsville. And then here in Nashville, just a reminder, no added lane closures for road work unless emergency due to the Christmas holiday. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 7 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy for 2 more shows. I'll still be your friend and radio buddy after that, but it's getting close, down to the last couple of shows here. Hope that you'll be able to join me tomorrow. We have a lot of special stuff planned. I think it's going to be interesting. I know you got, it's Christmas Eve and all that, and you got that stuff going on, but if you can, try to tune in. On the radio. I mean, on the actual radio. I think it'll be a better experience for you if you can join us on the radio.
Do it old school.
Yeah, do it old school, that frequency modulation at 99.7. All right, we want to get right to it here on the Newsmaker Hotline is Senator Marsha Blackburn. Senator, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm delighted to join you, and I cannot believe that your career in radio is coming to an end.
You and I have
going to retire.
I know. You and I have known each other quite a while back in the days when I was in Washington and I worked for Fox News, and even before that when I worked at Channel 5 when I covered Capitol Hill. So I had you and I, our pathways have crossed for a lot of years. So it is.
They have indeed.
Yeah, well,
they have indeed, and it's always been a pleasure.
Yeah,
I have really
I feel the same way.
You. Absolutely, and hope you enjoy this retirement.
Well, I'm gonna, but I'll be around. So it's like a bad penny. I'll keep showing up. I want to turn, if I could, to some of the news of the day. And by the way, thank you for all that. I appreciate it. This horrific thing that happened on a New York City subway. I mean, it's hard to believe that something like this could even happen. It's so horrific that a Guatemalan migrant who is in this country illegally just basically set up a sleeping subway rider on fire. It's hard to say the words because it's just you can't find the words to describe just how horrific it is. And this is another example of what's going on when you have an open border policy.
It is an example of what happens with an open border policy, and it is what happens when you have sanctuary city policies. It is what happens when people are saying defund the police and cutting the budget of our law enforcement agencies. And then for Governor Hochul to give the statement that she gave, which was just so insensitive. And then you've got Biden out here commuting 37 of the 40 federal death penalty sentences that had been given, and 37 of these 40 are going to be taken off death row. They're going to get life without parole. But when I look at this, Brian, what I see is an administration that has done their best to make illegal legal, regardless of whether you're talking about the Department of Justice or so many of the other agencies. They have had a complete disrespect for the rule of law. They've had a complete disregard for our judges and juries. And what you see is a disregard for the rights of victims. And this, when you look at the commuting the sentences, or the woman who was burned to death on the subway, think of what these families are going through here at the Christmas season as they are looking at all of this. And what we have to have is a secure border, and what we have to have is a return to respect for the rule of law.
Well, Donald Trump this weekend in Phoenix, that big event there for Turning Point, he laid it on the line. He's ready to get to work.
Your border is a disaster. Your border is a disaster, what's going on. And you just have a few days to wait. We're going to be fully operational, I would say, by about 2 o'clock on the 20th.
But today, one of the stories that's catching everybody's attention is that the Biden administration is actually thinking about putting up roadblocks to prevent the president-elect from doing what he said he was going to do and what he campaigned on and what he was elected for, and that was to, get rid of all the people, to deport all the people who are here illegally, and to secure the border. He says they may extend protections for hundreds of thousands of immigrants whose legal status is set to expire near the start of the Trump administration. They're gonna try to be obstructionist every step of the way.
Well, and we've already seen this with the return to work policy, that you had a couple of agencies, the VA and the IRS, because of the unions, allowing people another 5 years of work from home and remote work. And now you hear that they're trying to obstruct when it comes to the Department of Justice and Homeland Security, and putting up these roadblocks so that they cannot deport and remove these individuals that are here illegally. This is why we are working to get My Clear Act passed, and that would allow local law enforcement, when they apprehend someone who's in the country illegally, they can detain that individual, and ICE has to come and deport them. And it is for it could be a crime, it could be a motor vehicle violation, it could be a theft, but they would be held since they are a criminal illegal alien, and they would be deported. And the Biden administration, again, disrespect for the rule of law, trying to make illegal legal. This has been their focus, Brian. And now that you've got the American people having delivered a message that they want to return to law and order, they want the border secured, they want these agencies, these federal workers, to get themselves back in the office. And what do you see? You've got Biden on the way out the door, he has commuted more sentences and given more pardons than any president ever. And the message that sends to criminals is, you've got this administration and they're going to hit the green light for criminals. And I think that people are justified in this righteous anger against what this administration has done with these commutations, these pardons, with what they're doing, with this lack of respect for the rule of law, and what they're doing to allow people to flood into the country illegally. And of course, these big blue cities, what are they doing? They're trying to backfill their population count because they're losing population to some of the red states.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. One of the things that's going to be different this time is we're going to have this DOGE effort, which it's not going to be a real agency. It's basically going to be Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy taking a look in a very granular way at government, almost doing a line item review, and then pointing out places where, we can trim a lot of money out of this budget. By some estimates, they want to try to get $2 trillion out of the budget. We saw how powerful that process may be during the budget wrangling the other day when Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance all got on board and said, you know what, there's too much fat in that continuing resolution. How do you think that's going to work? And can they actually be successful in your mind?
I think they can, because the American people have hit a tipping point with out-of-control government spending. And a week before last, I filed my DOGE Acts. And it's a package of bills, and you and I've talked about this for years, across-the-board spending cuts in our non-defense, non-national security agencies. And a 1%, 2%, or a 5%. The 1% cut is called the penny plan. And this would require these agencies to every year make that rescission so that they can bring that budget in line. The second bill is to freeze federal hiring and federal salaries. Now, as you know, Vivek and I did some things during the fall that were pointed toward this. And the reason they were so anti what was happening with that omnibus, it wasn't a continuing resolution, 1,500 pages, it was an omnibus, but you have to be able to freeze those salaries and the hiring so that you can begin to reposition people and get rid of some of these positions where people are working remote, where people are living 2,000 miles away from the office, things of that nature, and that is what has been happening. The other thing is to move us to a merit-based employee system, and people who are working and producing would get a raise, and people who don't show up at the office would get fired, or they would get no raise. Right now, the longer you sit in a seat, the more money you're going to make.
Yeah, whether you're doing good work or not. Yeah,
that's right.
I want to ask you quickly. The other thing that sort of came up this weekend, which a lot of people initially went, "Wow, that's sort of out there," but then as I got to thinking about it, it's not really new. One of them is the sort of the shot across the bow of the folks in charge of the Panama Canal, saying you're not treating us very well, and you better straighten up. And the other part was that Donald Trump thinks maybe we ought to buy Greenland. It's not the first time this has been discussed. It's been discussed many times across the history of this country, but it never has come to fruition. How do you feel about those two things?
Well, and what we're looking at with the Panama Canal is American companies that are importing, and China having control over that canal. And I'm certain many of your listeners have either been through the canal or they've been to Panama and they have seen this, and they know how vital it is to be able to get goods and shipments through. And so going back in and saying we want to recoup this, we need to revisit this situation, I think that this is something that President Trump, as he is looking at how you deal with China and holding China to account, this is an appropriate pressure point, and it is something that, and this is a good thing, he's going to look holistically at how we deal with China. He's, right now there are sanctions that had been in place that Biden didn't enforce. There also were quotas that were established with China, and those have not been enforced. We've got farmers out in West Tennessee with soy and cotton, and what you're seeing is things are sitting here because those quotas haven't been filled. And so it has had an adverse impact on our farm economy. President Donald Trump.
And very, very quickly, if I could get you to comment about the thing about Greenland. That was, I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card. Very quickly, our time's running down.
Yeah, Brian, this is one of those things is he's looking at how you secure the United States and how you think strategically. This is something else that he has, and as we know, President Trump Many times he is going to kind of think out loud and start conversations with the American people and drive those discussions. And as we look at the safety and security of the United States, I think you're going to hear a little bit more of that from him.
All right. Senator, always been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye now.
All right. 21 past the hour. A question from the good people at Stotzco. Do you own some land? Maybe you're not doing anything with that land, just holding on to it. Why don't you invest in that investment that you have? Invest in it more by building something on it. Build a pole barn or build a pole building. They got all kinds of ideas. Think about this for a moment. How about building a barn dominium, a place to go on the weekends, or maybe it could be a place where you retire someday? Barn dominiums are like barns that you live in, but they're very cool and very popular right now. Pole barns can take a whole bunch of different styles. You can use it for a garage. You can use it for storage. You can use it for your livestock. You can use it as an equestrian space. How about this idea? Maybe you make it an event space. And then you rent it out to other people for on the weekends for their events. All kinds of things that you can do. But do me a favor, go to their website and take a look at some of the things they've done for other people, and you'll get it. You'll instantly get it, and then you'll want to call 615-622-5992. Or visit them online at Stotzco.com. That's Stotzco, Stoltzco, Stotzco.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Residents on edge in North Nashville after a shooting which police heard go down right next to a precinct. Coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That would be the one, the only Ken Weaver, the bearded wonder in the newsroom, bringing you all the news you need to know from around the world, across the nation, up your street, and down your alley. He's really big on the alley news. We don't miss that at all.
Depends on what alley you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. And there in the control room, pushing all the blinky buttons, is my friend and partner, Chris Weber. You know, Chris, it is bittersweet. Getting to this point, where it's getting real now.
I bet. Yeah.
I mean, tomorrow is the last full-time broadcast show. I mean, I'll be around, but I mean, the drive will be parked in the garage. We're going to pull down the garage door, go put one of them big canvas cover over the vehicle.
Uh-huh. Yep.
It's going into deep storage.
Yeah.
And then when I run out of money in retirement, I'll sell it for parts. Man. So
hope that it's increased in value somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, that would be great, wouldn't it? To find out that the drive had some value way down the line. Yeah. Anyway, but tomorrow we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to. I was just. Here it is. I mean, if you're watching on Super Talk TV, I hold in my hand.
What you got there?
Well, it's a book that I have written, and it talks about some of the things that I've done. And I got about 3/4 of the way through it, and I stopped. Not because I wasn't having fun writing it, but I just when I got to the stuff about Fox News, I got to thinking, well, I have nothing but good things to say about my time at Fox News, but there's a little thing when you leave Fox News, it's like working at the Hotel California. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. And they had a little clause there that said that if I wrote a book, that I had to get them to review it. And I just got to thinking, do I really want to go through that whole process? I don't know. One way or the other, I'm thinking about going ahead and starting that process. Because, again, I have nothing but interesting things to say, mostly about the experience. It's not so much about the company, So right. I don't think they're going to have a problem. So maybe I'll write it. Maybe I'll finish it up. And, and I'll read. I'm thinking about reading a large excerpt of what I've already written. Would y'all like to? Would y'all? I mean, I got some time here in the 5 o'clock hour. Would y'all like me to do that?
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so let's just see now. I got a whole long thing about my early days in radio, and then I got some about being my first job as a TV reporter and some of the stuff I did. I don't know, and then maybe I'll do that one. Yeah, because it's about the war that I got into with a competing television station in Amarillo.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, it's really funny. When I got to Washington, one thing I was shocked by is that there's a lot of cooperation among all the reporters. I mean, sure, if you got a good scoop, you're going to do your best to protect that scoop until you go on the air that night. But I mean, if you're out in the field and your camera breaks down, and if you were there and you had some kind of technical issue, you just call another station, says, hey, we had a technical. Could you give me a dub of that thing? Mm-hmm. And they give you a dub of the event, and then you could and we would do the same for them. I remember when my news director, who passed away, she would become the general manager, but she passed away. The folks from Channel 4, the NBC affiliate, came over and ran our newsroom.
Really?
While we all went to the funeral.
That's cool.
Wow.
I mean, they just came in. They populated the assignment desk. They made sure there was somebody to answer the phones. If anything happened, they were going to get it covered for us. I mean, there's a lot of cooperation.
Yeah.
This was not the way it was in Amarillo. We hated each other. So maybe I'll read some of that either today or tomorrow. So, hang around. That'll be fun. I think you'll get a big kick out of it. We're also going to cover the news of the day. We got a lot of stuff to go through about Trump this weekend. Oh, my gosh, he was all over the place talking about what he's going to do on the border, what he's going to do about gender issues, what he's going to do about the Panama Canal, and he wants to buy Greenland. I think we should just buy it. I mean,
how much does that cost?
how much could it cost, really? I mean, it's just, what they say is Iceland is green, but Greenland is ice.
That's right.
So, it's just a big icy wasteland.
Just turn it into a big old federal prison.
Yeah, well, it's loaded, they think, with minerals like gold and silver, and offshore they believe there's a tremendous amount of oil, but it's more of a national security thing with Trump. And by the way, though it may sound like completely off the wall, nobody had that on their bingo card, but you know what? It's been discussed many times across the history of this country. It's not such a crazy, wacky idea if it's up for sale.
Especially if it's got oil.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Alaska, Seward's Folly, they called it.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a pretty good investment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got all kinds of stuff to talk about. We'll get to that. Right now, time for the news with Ken Weaver.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Channel 4 talked to folks on edge after last night's shooting at the Cumberland View Apartments, 26th Avenue North last night.
I feel unsafe here. I'm scared to stay in my own house because I have not been staying. I've been staying down my brother's house. I got God and my children and my grandkids. And Lord, no, I got to get up out of this place.
Now, 17-year-old's in critical condition after that shooting, which officers at the North Precinct actually heard right after 7 o'clock last night. The man accused of setting a woman on fire on the New York City subway yesterday is officially charged with murder. 33-year-old Sebastian Zepeda, a Guatemalan citizen who entered the U.S. illegally after he had been previously removed in 2018. Unclear when or where he re-entered the U.S., now formally charged with murder. Authorities have not identified the victim yet because she was burned beyond recognition. Elsewhere in Nashville, overnight vandalism on HCA Healthcare's sign that reads, "Deny, defend, oppose." That's what was written on bullet casings at the scene of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson's murder December 4th in New York City. Channel 4's Dryden Quigley on video says shows it happening.
There's cardboard taped in place now, but earlier today it fell down, revealing the words "deny, defend, depose." Security video from just across the street captures it being written around 10:40 last night.
Yeah, she says you can see a figure sneaking up on the sign there on the corner of 25th and Charlotte Avenue North. HCA says security of its employees is top priority, and they're working with police to figure this out. Right now in Tennessee, a bill has been filed that would allow local schools and public charter schools to display the 10 Commandments on school property. Smithville Republican State Rep Michael Hale's the sponsor. Tennessee among states currently backing a Louisiana law which mandates the placement of the 10 Commandments in public schools. That's expected to be heard in the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals after a challenge. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, Highway 109 southbound in Lebanon. Going to be blocked there at Eastgate by a crash, which the Highway Patrol says it is working right now. Thompson Station, Williamson County got a crash blocking the right lane, 65 southbound, right there at the overpass. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Listen, I want to tell you about my friends over at Restoration Wellness and Med Spa. And the first thing I want to tell you is, I've been going there and they've been helping me lose a little weight. I am really happy to announce that I have now lost 40 pounds. And it's been the easiest thing ever. It's been a no pain weight loss thing, and they could do the same for you. But they also do a lot of other things over at Restoration Wellness and Med Spa. Chronic pain, for example, affects 20% of all adults in the U.S. And as you get older, it's worse, affecting nearly 50% of all adults over 65. So don't let your chronic pain control your life. They have a lot of things they can do for you. They'll put together a personalized treatment plan specific to whatever needs you have. So let the team at Restoration Wellness help you achieve your health goals this year. Here's the number, 615-470-8124, or visit them at their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com, to book a consultation. You'll meet Jamie and Carly, my good friends, and they're going to treat you like you're part of the family. Say goodbye to your chronic pain and get a new lease on life.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Hey, da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. That's good stuff. A little Christmas music. We got some great music going for tomorrow's show, by the way. Because I went on Facebook and I asked people, can you give me a recommendation of what music I should use to close out the show?
Yeah.
And I got some great ideas.
All right.
I came up with a few they didn't think of. And so we're going to have, you're not going to hear the regular open to the show tomorrow. You're going to hear really great music.
I'm looking forward to that.
It all has to do. What you want a little tease?
Sure.
All right. How about this one? Let's see. This one's easy. I mean, this was a no-brainer right here. You got to go with this one.
Yeah. All right. Cut it off so we don't get censored. Don't get
No. This is the G version.
No. I'm saying since you're playing it.
Oh, that's right. I'm not supposed to do that, am I? Yeah, I'll send those to you.
Just give a little snippet.
Yeah, okay, that's right. I forget. See, when I play music, everybody hears it out of my home studio.
Yep.
But when you play music, You can only hear it on the radio.
I can route it so that it goes around.
Yeah, because we're not supposed to play music on the stream.
Right.
Well, it's just
on the TV.
On the TV.
Yes.
That we're not supposed to do that on TV. So tomorrow, that's why I'm saying, we love you watching us on Super Talk TV, but tomorrow you need to listen on the radio.
Yeah, it will be an incomplete show if you do not. Yeah.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of gaps. You say, well, I wonder what they're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
You just see me doing the white man overbite, as we're playing this great music, and you'll say, well, that's really weird. What's wrong with him?
He's off his meds.
He looks like he has some kind of problem. But I'll just be grooving. But you have to listen on the radio in full stereo, high fidelity.
Nice.
We have taken great care to make sure that the music will be at its top. Very, very clean stereo sound. Sometimes there'll be stuff over on the left channel. And sometimes there'll be something over on the right channel.
All right, dude.
Yeah. Can you tell I'm in the mood to mess around a little bit today? I'm having fun. This is an interesting story that has to do with, the Dems. When you have an election, if you win, you do it. If you lose, you really do it. After action reports where you sit back and say, okay, well, if you won, what did you do right? What did we learn? And if you lose, you say, what did we do wrong and how can we fix that problem? Well, the Democrats got crushed in this election, and they are now in the process of trying to figure out exactly what went wrong and how they might fix it. And I think it's interesting to sort of listen in on their conversation. This is from Politico. New research shows the massive hole that Dems are in. Even voters who previously backed Democrats cast the party as weak and overly focused on diversity and elites. I think what the Democrat elites and their politicians believe is often very different from what the average Democrat voter is, said a Georgia man who voted for Biden in 2020, but for Trump in 2024. The elites that run the Democrat Party, I think they're way too obsessed with appealing to these very far-left social progressivism, and that's very popular on college campuses. These voters voiced cautious optimism about Trump's second term, both in the focus group and a post-election poll that found Trump's highest approval rating since 2020. The national poll, which surveyed 1,000 people, found 47% viewed Trump favorably, while 50% disapproved of him, the highest marks he's received since he left office. For a politician, really, honestly, 47%, not bad. Because you're always going to, half of people are never going to like you. And I think Biden's down in the 30s somewhere. Russ, they talked to these pollsters, and they found that they had a lot of things that they wanted to know. They say these good numbers for Trump marks a honeymoon period. Once things start happening, it's going to take a turn. So it's going to rely very heavily on the actions of the first 100 days to see how we go from here. And that is true. Let me just say this. It is a wonderful opportunity for Republicans and conservatives. Sometimes that's not the same thing. But it's a wonderful let's just think of what we have now starting on January 20th. The White House is controlled by Donald Trump, a Republican. The Senate will have 53 Republicans and 47 Democrats will control the Senate. It'll be a very, very, very closely divided House, but we will control the House. We have a Supreme Court with a 6-3 conservative majority, which is amazing. And by the way, incidentally, 26 of the nation's governors are conservative Republicans. I mean, it doesn't get any better in a country that's mostly divided up the middle. So, you've got to take action. And it's been my experience, and I covered Washington since the last term of Ronald Reagan. You've got, if you're going to get anything done, it usually happens in the first few months. And then after that, it just for some reason, the momentum just sort of dies. So a lot of things have got to happen quickly if you're going to take advantage of anything kind of good feeling that you have going into office. So they did a bunch of focus groups with the Democrats. When focus group participants were asked about inflation and tariffs, many of them said they didn't fully understand the policy. They acknowledged they expected prices to go up. Obviously, I wouldn't want stuff to go up, but at the same time, in the long run, would it be better off for America and maybe having more stuff made here, said one man from Wisconsin? See, voters are not stupid. They get this stuff. Even though the focus group's voters did not solely blame Harris for her distaste of for their distaste of the Democrat Party, they also weren't happy about her candidacy. Participants described her as inauthentic, very dishonest, and did not seem competent. An Arizona man citing the time Harris said, "You better thank a union member," during a speech in Detroit. That was very disingenuous to me because I didn't see an honest person that could be president. It seemed like a lot of what came out and said wasn't really off the cuff, wasn't coming from her, said another man who voted for Biden in 2020 and Trump in 2024. Seemed like every interview, every time she came out and talked about something, it was planned out and never her thoughts. Didn't seem genuine. Trump said, even though you really knew what he was going to say, when he was going to say it, it was always him and genuine to what he thought. And so that swayed me. Democrats are in a hole. And it's interesting that they found in all of these focus groups that they did that they really felt like they were so focused on sort of the liberal progressivism that you see on college campuses and about gender identity and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they didn't really think that really mattered in their lives. This is very much, what you've been hearing from some of the top Democrats in recent day. The polling suggests that Democrats should change maybe their positions on things like abortion, health care, taxing the rich, as well as a fear that Trump may go too far on tariffs. Their survey also showed that 2/3 of voters said inflation should be the incoming president's top issue, but only 1/3 of voters believed it was Trump or the Republicans' top issue, so maybe they need to make that pretty good. So they're gonna be licking their wounds, and what I expect probably is if Democrats are going to, have any chance at all of sort of rebounding. It's not my hope that they do, but I mean, they're not going to sit around and do nothing. They're going to be obstructionist. That's the first part. They're going to do everything they can to slow the process. They're right now burying people within the government. People who are political appointees are now taking different kinds of jobs within these different agencies so they can bury themselves. Sort of like a little time bomb. Do what they can at the right moment to slow things down. There's all kinds of obstructionism that are going to be going, but they're going to be sitting over there thinking over it. And I would expect that if Democrats are alert, cunning, and sly, and there's no guarantee that they are, that they're going to move back toward the center. And the next person they put forward will be somebody who is more centrist. I've seen this before with the Democrats. Say what you will about Bubba, Bill Clinton, but some of his ideas were quite moderate. And he made some changes. I mean, we had a pretty good economy under Clinton, and we also had the whole thing with trying to make sure that we made people go to work instead of just live off welfare. That was one of his big accomplishments. And, we also got Monica Lewinsky and a whole lot of other stuff. But one way or the other, he was more of a centrist than Joe Biden was, certainly more of a centrist than Obama was. And I think that, if they're going to have any success at all, that they'll have to move back toward the middle and find a more moderate candidate. The good news for us is there's not a person out there that really fits that bill except perhaps Joe Manchin. And he's getting to be too old. And he's leaving politics. So be interesting to see who they come up with. A lot of people who fit that mold got very disappointed with the Democrats and ended up sort of not doing anything. Kyrsten Sinema, there's a perfect example. She pretty much walked away from the Democrat Party because she didn't feel like it was in touch with the American people. And she was right. Joe Manchin was right. And some of the other Democrats were wrong. So I have a feeling that's what they're going to be doing. It is 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Here's some news from DT McCall. You need to buy a gun safe for Dad for Christmas. Let's just get down to it. That's what Dad wants. He wants one of them big gun safes. There's not a dad I know that wouldn't love having that. And did you know that gun safes are sales tax free? That's right, sales tax free. So when you're not at a tree stand, you want to have a safe place to put your guns. And DT McCall is the largest Liberty safe dealer in all of Tennessee because they have free delivery and setup. Some charge $500 for delivery and setup of the big models, $300 for the small models. DT McCall & Sons delivers every safe free every time, period. No setup charge as well. And here's the other thing. You can use them for other things besides guns. It could be a place to put your valuables, your cash, your jewelry, your important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now on your Liberty gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Just go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Vandalism in Nashville appearing to glorify the United Healthcare CEO's murder. This story and more at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Call it 56 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair. This is our penultimate broadcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
That sounds better to me than ultimate.
Yeah. When you say ultimate is the final thing. It's the ultimate thing. Penultimate is one short of the ultimate.
Yeah. Sounds better to me, though.
Yeah. So it's our penultimate broadcast. And tomorrow we're going to have a lot of fun.
That's way to go, Brother Brian.
Yeah.
I love the words you come up with.
Are you looking
man.
up? You make sure I'm using it correctly?
No, I know you are. I just have to look at it. I mean, I'm amazed at where you come up with these words.
I'll tell you. I've always been blessed with a pretty good vocabulary, but you know why? My mama, of course, I grew up in West Texas, and we mess up a lot of things the way we talk out there. And
we did too.
But she took me every summer. Every week during the summer we would go to the bookmobile.
Yep.
Nice.
And check out I would check out maybe 8 or 10 books.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know how you build a good vocabulary is by reading a lot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all I ever read were the Hardy Boys.
It used to upset my dad because our newspaper in our hometown was delivered in the evenings, not mornings.
Right.
And it was an afternoon paper. And so it would land on the front porch about 45 minutes before my dad got home from work most days.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get it. Well, he didn't like it because he didn't like anybody else messing up his paper before he got a chance to read it.
Get the pages out of whack.
I was very careful. I would read the entire paper.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like 8.
Yes.
Or 9.
Wow.
So, I was always reading as a kid. But then I had to make sure I put it back just like it was and put it over in his chair so that he wouldn't know that I had read the paper. But I did. I scanned the paper. I knew more about what was going on in town than probably a lot of adults who live there.
Yep.
I always just turn straight to the funny pages.
Yeah. Well, I did that too. The funny way, the Odessa American, it was the name of the paper, and one of the things that I learned from doing that was that their whole thing was, and it's a great way to look at journalism, was, it's our money, and we need to make sure that they're spending it properly. And I mean, they would be on the city council or the county commission or the police department. They were always, they were out there, really hammering them because and it was almost always because they were wasting money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's and that, by the way, is pretty good journalism. We could use some more of that. Looking at the markets, Dow Jones Industrials up 66, the S&P up 43, NASDAQ up 192. All screens are green. This brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. To learn more about what they can do to help you get ready for your retirement, just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It's just shy of 4 o'clock.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. And right now in Nashville, vandalism at a major healthcare company. Channel 4's Dryden Quigley says security cameras recorded it when someone tagged a sign at HCA Healthcare last night around 10:40.
Here you can see a figure sneaking up on the sign at the corner of Charlotte Avenue and 25th Avenue North. Another angle taken at 10:41 captures the person next to the sign for about 2 minutes while they seem to spray paint it. Early next morning, commuters could see deny, defend, depose. HCA says security is their highest priority, and they're working with local law enforcement to investigate.
Now, the suspect in that case in New York, which those words are directly linked to, made another court appearance today. Here's Dave Packer.
Luigi Mangioni's plea in a New York State courtroom Monday to murder and terrorism charges was the same as it was in federal court last week. He's being charged in both cases with allegedly killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson earlier this month. Outside the courthouse, a group of supporters of the suspect, one declaring free Luigi, another comparing Mangione with Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, and Jesus Christ.
Elsewhere in New York, the man who police say set fire to a woman on the subway last night is officially charged with murder. 33-year-old Sebastian Zepeda, a Guatemalan citizen who entered the U.S. illegally after he had been previously removed in 2018. It's unclear when and where he re-entered the U.S. He's formally charged with murder now, but authorities have not identified the victim yet because she was burned beyond recognition. With less than a month before leaving office, President Biden commuting 37 of the 40 death sentences on federal death row to life in prison without parole. Elizabeth Schulze reports only 3 men now remain on federal death row, including one of the Boston Marathon bombers, 2 mass shooters.
He's been under a lot of pressure from civil rights groups, from religious groups, law enforcement to try to take these actions. Just a couple weeks ago, he commuted 1,500 people in one single day. That was a record for any American president in modern history. A lot of those were convicted of nonviolent crimes like drug offenses. And of course, you can't talk about President Biden's acts of clemency without mentioning his unconditional pardon of his own son, Hunter.
President Biden expected to meet with the Pope next month. Well, the company Character AI has promised changes to its so-called companion chatbots to remind users you're not talking to an actual human being. Jim Ryan says the policy revisions follow tragedies involving teens.
Some of the chats between teens and Character AI contain sexual overtones, says attorney Matthew Bergman.
A lot of these conversations, if they'd been with an adult and not a chatbot, that adult would have been in jail, rightfully so.
The mother of a 14-year-old who took his own life blames the relationship her son had built with a chatbot he called Daenerys. Matthew Bergman.
If you would have told me 2 years ago that this stuff could exist, I'd have said you're crazy.
Critics call Bergman's lawsuits a money grab.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Over here on the South Loop, got a crash blocking the right lane, 40 westbound, right there near the 24 split. Williamson County got 65 southbound near the Thompson Station Road overpass, and Whites Creek Pike. Accident reported 24 westbound near the Clay Lick Road overpass. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is 7 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive for a couple more days, today and tomorrow. Wow. It's hitting me right square between the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, next thing you know, I'll have an apron on, in the afternoons cooking dinner.
An apron. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have some flour dusted on your cheeks.
That's right. And, when the missus come home from work, I have to have her drinks ready,
That's right. Hi, honey. How was your day?
How was your day?
Here, take your shoes off. Have a drink.
Have her slippers ready. Yeah. That's right. No, I'll be the perfect wife is what I'll be for my wife. Boy, I got to tell you, this thing that happened in New York City. Oh, it's unbelievably depraved. I mean, literally, I don't have adjectives to describe how horrific this crime was. A Guatemalan migrant who'd been arrested for allegedly lighting a sleeping subway rider on fire, and then sat there and watched an innocent victim, person minding her own business, just burned to death. Being described as one of the most depraved crimes one person could possibly commit. And that's a good way to put it. It truly is just unbelievably horrific. And against this backdrop, we're about to have a real effort on the part of the Trump administration to try to get people who are in this country illegally, especially the people who are bad hombres, out of this country, send them back to where they went. People who have committed crimes, people who have criminal backgrounds, who've been led into this country by the Biden administration. Donald Trump says he's ready to get to work on this.
On my first day back in the Oval Office, I will sign a historic slate of executive orders to close our border to illegal aliens and stop the invasion of our country. And on that same day, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
He's serious. He's going to get right to it.
Your border is a disaster. Your border is a disaster, what's going on. And you just have a few days to wait. We're going to be fully operational, I would say, by about 2 o'clock on the 20th.
But against that backdrop is this. Unbelievably, the Biden administration, according to the New York Times, is weighing the option of putting up roadblocks to stop Trump from deporting people who came to this country illegally who are really bad people. The administration may extend protections for hundreds of thousands of immigrants whose legal status is set to expire near the start of the Trump administration. Donald J. Trump, hang on, let me pull up the wrong page. The Biden administration is considering extending protections for hundreds of thousands of immigrants whose status in the United States is set to expire in the first months of the Trump administration, according to U.S. officials and documents viewed by the New York Times. The move would make it harder, though not impossible, for President-elect Donald Trump to deport those people. But it is a sign that the Biden administration could try in the final weeks to build obstacles to what Mr. Trump has promised will be the biggest deportation in U.S. history. The immigrants in question have temporary protected status, which allows people from dangerous and troubled countries to live and work in the United States legally. As of this year, there are 1 million immigrants from 17 countries who have that temporary protected status, according to the Congressional Research Service. Mr. Trump tried to get rid of the program during his first term, and his advisors have made it clear he will try again as part of a broad crackdown on legal and illegal immigration. If Mr. Biden were to extend the temporary protective status, even for a relatively narrow group of people, Mr. Trump would either have to wait for the protections to expire or cut them off early, something that would almost certainly be challenged in court. The program has come under criticism over the years, in part because TPS requires regular extensions, generally every 18 months, Immigrants from some countries, including El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua, have been eligible for the protection for more than 2 decades, drawing criticism from Republicans who say the program effectively allows people to stay in the United States indefinitely. They're going to drag their feet. They're going to do every possible thing that they can do. Here's Caroline Leavitt, who will be the press secretary in the new Trump administration.
Well, securing the southern border, perhaps looking at Title 42. Many of these executive actions are still being considered by our policy teams and also our lawyers.
So they're going to get right to it, and they're already scanning the books, trying to figure out what they're going to do. They got a guy that I can't wait to get turned loose, named Tom Homan. He's going to be the border czar. Now, the interesting thing about a border czar is a czar is an appointed position. It's not a governmental position, official government position. It doesn't require, for example, confirmation by the Senate. So he can be turned loose on day one. He will make recommendations to the president, and the president will make the decisions based on his own authority. There could be a lot of executive actions. He's all up in the air about this thing that happened in New York, and rightfully so.
Well, look, this is another example of an illegal alien killing American citizens. It's almost a daily occurrence now, because historic number of criminal aliens walking the streets because of this administration's policy in sanctuary jurisdictions and lax immigration enforcement. ICE has their hands tied. Secretary Mayorkas have given them priorities that they can't even go arrest an illegal alien anymore unless he's convicted of a serious crime. Then maybe they can arrest him. So this is on this administration. As far as Governor Hochul, shame on her. She supports sanctuary status in that state. She welcomed thousands of illegal aliens to her state. She sent them to Buffalo and Syracuse. Murders occurred by illegal aliens in Buffalo and Syracuse. She has a green light law. ICE and CBP can't even work with local law enforcement. Local law enforcement can't even share DMV data with these people. So Governor Hochul, shame on you. There's nothing you can say that's going to make this right in New York.
That's right. And it's just a tragedy, and it's not surprising that things like this are happening when you let, countries around the world empty their prisons into America, which really has happened. That's not just, talk from Trump. That has happened. He's not at all happy with Alejandro Mayorkas. Homan isn't. Mayorkas was on TV this weekend trying to give some kind of lame explanation as to how the Department of Homeland Security lost track of young children who came to this country. We don't know where they are. We suspect that a great number of them are being used in human trafficking. I mean, this policy is just full of problems, but he's trying to wiggle out of it.
We certainly have received reports of children being trafficked, even those as to whom we know where they are. That is outside the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, we investigate cases of trafficking, but there are children who are reunited with a parent here in the United States or a legal guardian, and they move, and sometimes the government loses track.
Well, Homan is not having any of that lame explanation.
It's nothing but lies. Nothing but lies. Border numbers aren't down. They're just putting them through the CBP One app and the CHNV app. You add those programs together, what Border Patrol's catching the gotaways, we're still have historic numbers. They were bragging the other day that ICE has over 247,000 removals, the most in a decade. No, they don't. If you look at the data, 80% of them were Border Patrol apprehensions that ICE just simply put across the border. ICE interior enforcement numbers are historic lows. And as far as the children, another lie. Under his guidance, under his leadership, first of all, it's his policies that caused over 500,000 of children being smuggled in this country, trafficking in this country, and they lost track with 340,000 of them. His lips are moving, he's lying, and he needs to be held accountable. Nothing he said in that interview is truthful.
Mayorkas has been responsible for a great crime against this country. Not enforcing the border laws, turning his head, shackling the Border Patrol and ICE so that they can't do their jobs, basically, you talk about, well, the border situation, well, some people say, well, it looks better. There's not as many people standing on the border trying to get across, not as many people waiting across the river. You know what? That is absolute horse, you know what? I nearly said it. Did you have your finger on the button? I was
ready.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what it is. It's because that situation is so bad. They claim there aren't many people coming across. Well, you know they're going through the app. They're basically being flown into the country so that, you know why? Because that's a hard picture to get. It's not like the picture of people waiting across the river. They stopped that during the election so that picture would go away, but they were still coming. They were flying in directly. They did the CBP One app and they came anyway. 7 million is the official total. And those are the known people that were allowed into the country during the Biden years. But it's more than that, because those are the ones we know about, and then there are the unknowns and the unknown unknowns. It's probably more like 8, 10, 11. Probably, I think 11 is probably the right number of people that are in this country. A lot of them came in, and a lot of them are bad people. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know what their plans are. And I guarantee you that some of the people who came across are doing so at the behest of countries who do not have our best interest at heart. They're burrowing into the fabric of America, waiting for their orders. That could happen. There are no doubt terrorists in this country who came across it we don't know anything about. It's unbelievable that this was allowed to happen under the Biden administration. I'm telling you, if things happen going forward as part of, all these people are in this country, it's not on Trump at all. It's all on Biden. It's all on Mayorkas. Because they did not have the interests of the United States of America at heart. They had crass political reasons for doing it. Number one, they felt like if we never get these people to be citizens, they'll vote Democrat. Will change the demographics of American voters forever. And the other part is they shunted them into the cities around America that are losing population because they're moving south, because they know what? Yeah, because there's going to be a census taken. And they don't want to lose seats in Congress. It is all being done for politically crass reasons. You've heard me preach this, for the last 3 or 4 years. And I know you're tired of it, but I mean, it is just unbelievable that this could happen. Already, Trump is talking to Mexico about tightening up the borders, talking to Canada about tightening up the borders, and they're paying attention. You know what else he did this weekend that got people's attention? Certainly got the attention of the people in the Panama Canal. Certainly probably got the attention of the people in Greenland. What are you saying? What Trump wants to buy Greenland? Well, maybe Elon Musk could buy it and just give it to us. We'll talk about that in just a moment, 20 minutes past the hour.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a Guaranteed Offer and start packing.
Vandalism in Nashville seemingly glorifying the murder of a healthcare CEO. This story and more coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes past the hour. Yeah, you're getting ready for the holidays. Everything is. You got all your candy canes out and stocking stuffers ready.
Got my stockings hung.
I'll tell you, the only thing that's getting stuffed in my house is me.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's what you're supposed to do this time of year, right?
You know what? I generally don't like the mixture of chocolate and other flavors. I mean, with the exception of peanut butter, because we all know Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is about the best thing ever.
Hard to beat, yeah.
It's hard to bite them. But I generally don't like people messing with chocolate. I especially don't like, in a lot of cases, chocolate with mint.
You're really particular, aren't you?
Well, I mean, the chocolate is perfect. Don't mess with chocolate.
Yeah, I put some whiskey in mine this weekend.
Yeah, did you?
I did indeed, and I told myself, don't ever do that again, Weaver.
Yeah.
That sounds like a winning combination to me.
Well, I'll tell you what happened is Cabana wife handed me a box that has it's I don't know, it's chocolate crack is what it is.
Yeah,
it's chocolate but peppermint.
Yeah.
See, that sounds like good stuff to me.
I'm telling you, I couldn't stop. I mean, it's just like, I just kept going back to the box. It's just like, no, please take this box away. Fine. I hope it's hidden because I've eaten too much of it. But that's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what this time of year is all about to me, is all that crap that you never eat any of the rest of the time of year because you know how bad it is for you. But this time of year, you're like, you know what? It's Christmas.
Yeah, what the heck?
Have you had your first, your traditional glass of eggnog yet?
3 or 4 of them.
I don't know. I haven't had the traditional, but I have had a couple glasses of the eggnog with the bourbon.
Yeah, well, that's traditional in my mind.
Okay. All right.
I swear to God, brother Chris.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's it is hard to walk away from all the good foods. It really is, especially when you have a wife who really knows how to cook.
I bet. Yeah.
And really puts on a good table, as they say. She's expecting me to cook for her now.
Yeah. you just this is what you do. See, you go to the store and you get a couple of boxes of that hamburger helper stuff.
Yeah.
Just do that a couple of times.
No. She's smarter than that. She's already laid down the rules. No hamburger helper. And I like to do red beans and rice. I'm big on red beans and rice.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And I was, sort of raised on that, and then maybe some kielbasa on the side.
Yes, sir.
It's hardly any time I don't like kielbasa.
Yeah.
Or some kind of Polish sausage or something like that. So, but she's already said, no, it's got to be stuff that I will eat. And I simply pointed out to her that I eat everything that you put in front of me.
Ooh.
And she didn't care.
So she wants me to cook, but she's very particular. She says, you're going to have to learn how to read a recipe.
Yeah. And none of that jarred pasta sauce either.
No, that's boy. I'm telling you, that's where she draws the line. But the good news is she makes sauce early. At the in fall, she takes a bunch of tomatoes and makes a bunch of sauce and cans it and puts it on the shelf. So all you got to do is grab it.
Yeah,
and that's okay because her sauce is really good. But if I'm gonna cook, then I think that whatever I put on the table, she should just gratefully say, "Well, this is delicious, honey. Thank you so much."
Yeah, chef's choice.
Yeah, chef. Yeah. It's like being when you drive the car, you're in charge of the radio, right?
That's right.
When you're doing the cooking, then you get to pick what it was going to be made. And I told her there'll be a lot of nights where it's tuna fish salad sandwiches.
Yeah.
Or maybe some Spam sandwiches.
Big old pot of ranch-style beans.
Yeah.
See, if it was me, I'd be like, we're having cereal tonight, honey.
Yeah,
Grab your bowl and the gallon of milk.
Yeah. But no, she's already done the maneuver, the preemptive strike, saying, no, I'm not going to eat that. And you need to do better. So I'm, very high expectations.
Now, see, what she should do, this would be a good challenge, I think. She should lay down a recipe and say, all right, Brian, tonight I want you to fix this and give you the recipe and then give you all the ingredients to prepare said recipe and then just turn you loose and see how it goes. See if you can actually accomplish, just execute. Give you all the tools to do it.
You know how I make dinner?
What's that?
Get in the car.
Yeah.
They got this
We're
great
going out
place
to
right
eat.
down the road.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's gonna be a lot of life changes in the next few days. 30 minutes now past the hour. We'll talk about Greenland and Panama Canal after the news.
.4:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Something we're going to have to keep an eye on. Former President Clinton has been admitted to the Georgetown University Medical Center for testing and observation after developing a fever. This is according to the former president's office. Right now in Nashville, Metro Police called after people reported seeing the words deny, defend, depose on the sign at HCA Healthcare at 25th and Charlotte this morning. Those are the same words found on the shell casings at the murder scene of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The suspect in Thompson's murder was in court again today. Luigi Mangione pleaded not guilty to state murder and terror charges, says Aaron Katursky.
Court, there were several rows of apparent supporters of Luigi Mangione who came to see his appearance. Many of them were young women. And then here outside, there are a few dozen supporters who have been chanting to free Luigi or down with CEOs, calling for health care for all. And these kinds of protests, the authorities, of course, are perfectly content to tolerate.
Right now in Middle Tennessee, Murfreesboro police have blocked off the parking lot of the Longhorn Steakhouse right there at the Avenue Mall on Medical Center Parkway. This is to investigate a crash involving a pedestrian. One person had to be rushed to the hospital. Police say to use other entrances there to the avenue, but holiday shoppers, you can still expect long delays in that area. Holiday travel update. Channel 4 spoke to a woman at B&A who says she got through TSA without any major delays.
I was a little worried with how busy everything was expected to be, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised.
Travelers between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. advised to get to the airport at least 2 hours prior to the flight to avoid delays because those are the busiest times. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. .65 southbound right there at the Thompson Station Road overpass. TDOT reporting a crash. Then we've got Whites Creek, 24 westbound right near the Clay Lick Road overpass. South Loop downtown, TDOT reporting the right lane is blocked, 40 westbound near the 24 split. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, the holiday fun continues at Genesis Diamonds. You've just got a little more time to get that special gift before Christmas, so get after it, folks. Get it by there. Genesis loves the last-minute shoppers. They've got tons of great ideas, incredible, valuable prices, and 5 years, 0% interest financing. That's pretty big. I mean, basically, it means you could look at anything in the store and divide the cost by 60, and that will be your monthly payment. You can get a $9,000 diamond ring and pay $150 a month. Or how about that $5,000 pair of diamond stud earrings, $85 a month. You can even finance the sales tax. And you can use this amazing offer on anything, designer engagement rings, classic diamond pendants and bracelets. All Genesis hand-selected GIA-certified diamonds are included, and so are the luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Is this the year you treat someone or even yourself with a Rolex? Or that amazing Diamond Eternity band? At Genesis, they have the best holiday collection ever with case after case of headliner gifts that are romantic and timeless. And with Genesis guaranteed best value price and 5 years, 0% interest financing, you can make this the best Christmas ever and still stay within budget. Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit only.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Ba, ba, ba. That's fun. I love Christmas music. I went to church. I went. You know, I'm around liquor. Did anybody know what that is?
I'm not sure we can talk about that.
No, people say I guess maybe I should say I'm a Round Lickian. I go to a church called Round Lick Baptist Church.
Okay.
It's named after a creek, so it's that's where an unusual name. A lot of Baptist churches are named after things that are, like geographical points of interest.
Yeah, things nearby the church.
Right? Yeah, they named the church after it. So so it's Round Lick Baptist Church, and you know what? I'm not a big fan of what they call the modern praise music. It's not my thing. I like them old hymns, where you open up the book, turn to page number 453,
Yes, sir.
And we shall gather at the river, or, just as I am, I love those old great hymns.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they don't do much of that. Yeah, but Sunday before Christmas, you got to do all the Christmas carols, all the Christmas songs. So, it was great. They could hear me singing because I knew the words.
And they're like, this is why we don't do this.
This is why we don't let Wilson sing. This is right.
I was going to say somebody pulled a fire alarm.
And the preacher, I got this guy. He's become a very good friend. Rick Burns is our preacher, and he had been suffering from a little bit of a sore throat, so he shortened his sermon a little bit. So we got Christmas carols and got out early.
All right.
That's what church is all about for me right there. But getting down to the restaurant for the Church of Christ gets let out. That's what it's all about.
Elbow your way to the front of the line anymore.
Anyway, it was fun. It was great. Did anybody have bingo on their bingo card, Panama Canal or Greenland as things that Donald Trump would be talking about this weekend? Well, he says, we got a problem with the Panama Canal. A lot of stories really did not capture his comments. He wants to take back the Panama Canal. No, what he wants is for the people who are in control of the Panama Canal, which is Panama, to not let the Chinese be in control of the Panama Canal, and to look at the historical relation. They wouldn't have the Panama Canal had it not been for, the fact that Jimmy Carter gave it to them for $1. What in the world was he thinking? Such a strategic choke point in the world economy, from a national security standpoint, from an economic standpoint, never should have done it. But it done. But what he's talking about is the Chinese are trying to take over down there, and that's not good for us. And that the people who are in control of the Panama Canal are charging us, horrible fees to go through the canal, both our commercial shipping and our military shipping. And he's saying we're going to have a talk about that. So listen carefully. Oh, yes, he jokes at one point. Maybe we should just take it back. It was a joke, and you'll hear that. Clearly a joke. But he spoke out about this over the weekend in Phoenix, and so that you know exactly what he said, here's about 2 minutes and, 45 seconds of Trump talking about the whole Panama Canal thing.
It's such a terrible thing is happening. The Panama Canal is considered a vital national asset for the United States of America due to its critical role, American economy, the whole world economy, because we're being ripped off at the Panama Canal like we're being ripped off everywhere else. He just said take it back. That's a good idea. A secure Panama Canal is crucial for U.S. commerce and rapid deployment of the Navy from the Atlantic all the way to the Pacific. It's an incredible thing, and drastically cut shipping times down to U.S. ports by days and even weeks. Teddy Roosevelt was president of the United States at the time of its building and understood the strength of naval power and trade. When President Jimmy Carter foolishly gave it away for $1. During his term in office, it was solely for Panama to manage and not for China or any other country to manage. You see what's going on there? It was likewise not given for Panama to charge the United States, its Navy, and its corporations doing business within our country exorbitant prices and rates of passage, which they do. They charge us like it's a disgrace. The fees being charged by Panama are ridiculous, highly unfair, especially knowing the extraordinary generosity that has been bestowed to Panama. This complete ripoff of our country will immediately stop. It's going to stop. The United States has a big and vested interest in the secure, efficient, and reliable operation of the Panama Canal. And that was always understood when they gave it to Panama. And we will never, ever let it fall into the wrong hands. But it's falling into the wrong hands.
See, that's what he's really concerned about right there. That China is trying to have influence over that, and that China wants to use this as a choke point. And he's really concerned. That's great strategic thinking. Don't let that happen. What if we get into some kind of issue with the Chinese in the South China Sea, and all of a sudden China just shuts down our entire economy by closing off the Panama Canal? It's something to really think about.
It was not given for the benefit of others by a token of cooperation, but it was given to Panama and to the people of Panama, but it has provisions You got to treat us fairly, and they haven't treated us fairly. If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America in full, quickly, and without question. I'm not going to stand for it. So to the officials of Panama, please be guided accordingly.
See, that's what he's saying. He's saying, look, are we going to go down there and seize the Panama Canal? No. But he's letting the people in charge down there in Panama, which is, by the way, a pretty corrupt government. It always has been. You're on notice. We're not going to sit here and be abused. You have that canal because of the largesse of the United States, because we were generous and we gave it to you. I still can't believe Jimmy Carter did that, but he did, and it's, that's history. So now the question is: Are you going to now hand it over to the Chinese and let them control this thing? That's not in our national security interest. That's not in our economic interest. So he's basically pointing to them and saying, "We know what you're doing, and we don't like it, and you better get your act together and treat us a little better, or there'll be ramifications that will follow. Please act accordingly." And look, all he's trying to do is what he's done with Canada and Mexico and China. He's brushing them back. He's telling them, we're not going to stand by idly and not say anything about the things that you're doing. Canada is just jumping through hoops to get the border secure because they're worried about tariffs. So is Mexico. And he's doing the same thing with Panama. Then came this whole thing about Greenland. He said, we should try to buy Greenland, basically, is what he said. Pretty interesting stuff. Here's from NBC News. Trump says ownership of Greenland is an absolute necessity. The president-elect had floated the idea of buying the island, which is part of Denmark, during his first term in the White House. I remember this. President-elect Donald Trump shared his renewed interest Sunday in the U.S. controlling the autonomous territory of Greenland, which is owned by Denmark. For purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Trump wrote in a statement announcing that he had chosen Ken Howry to serve as an ambassador to Denmark. Greenland's Prime Minister, Mute Edge, had already rejected Trump's remarks, saying in a statement, "Greenland is ours. We are not for sale. We will never be for sale. We must not lose our long struggle for freedom," he said, according to Reuters. Trump floated the idea of purchasing Greenland during his first term as president on multiple occasions. He told reporters in 2019, "Strategically, it's interesting, and we'd be interested. But we will talk to them a little bit. First, we have to find out if they have any interest. They're losing a tremendous amount of money. We'll see what happens." At that point, Denmark said that Greenland was not for sale, which caused Trump to cancel a trip he had scheduled to the country. He said in a tweet, "Denmark is a very special country with incredible people." Based on the Prime Minister's comments that she would have no interest in discussing the purchase of Greenland, "I'll be postponing our meeting scheduled in 2 weeks for another time." And people think, well, this is outrageous. Talking about buying. Well, that's what they said about Alaska. They called it Seward's Folly. Remember that? Did you study that in school? Seward's Folly. Why are we buying a big old piece of land that's mostly frozen? Eskimos and igloos. That's what people. But it turned out to be. We get a lot of oil out of Alaska. And it's now considered maybe one of the best things that we ever did was buying Alaska from the Russians. And here's the thing. It's not the first time that America has talked about purchasing Greenland. The U.S., according to NBC News, has considered purchasing Greenland at least twice, once in 1867 and more recently in 1946 when President Harry S. Truman proposed buying it for $100 million. Which in 46 was a lot of money. Denmark rejected the offer. You know, basically, how about this? I mean, we don't. It can be like a self-governing territory if we could just get Denmark to let it go. You get self-rule, and we're not interested in your politics, but instead of it being owned by Denmark, it'd be owned by us because it's strategically important, militarily important to have control in that part of the world. And again, what I like about this is, are we going to end up owning Greenland? I don't know. I doubt it. But I love the idea that Trump is thinking outside the box. And I think the real solution here is just have Elon Musk buy it. He's got more money than God, so just have him buy it, and we'll lease it from him. A lend-lease kind of thing. I don't know.
Rent with the option to buy.
Rent with the option to buy. Apparently a lot of minerals, a lot of oil offshore, a lot of things to like about Greenland. It is largely, there's 570,000 people who live there.
Now, what I saw was, I just looked that up. I see only 56,000 people.
Did I look at that wrong? Maybe I looked at it wrong. Hang on. I had the number here. Oh, you're right. I said 570 is 57,000 people is what it is. So there's not a lot of people there. And quite frankly, most of it's unpopulated. But strategically, we need to have, a base of operations in that part of the world. So an interesting thought. Again, we thought Alaska was a crazy idea. It turned out to be a pretty good purchase. I love the fact that he's thinking about these things because that's what we want. We want somebody who thinks outside the box. Status quo is not getting it done. 52 past the hour. Man, don't you wish it were true that you could just take some kind of special cream or pop a pill and your back would stop hurting? See, but in most cases, when your back hurts, it's pressure on your nerves. And there are just a couple of choices in most cases, surgery or non-invasive spinal decompression. I chose non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Their state-of-the-art facilities offer the latest non-surgical procedures, and because getting better is so important to Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley, they are offering half off spinal decompression treatments and half off the KT knee machine. So here's what you do. If you're a new patient, go in. You'll get an exam, a consultation. They'll lay out a plan of treatment for you, and you'll get your first treatment, and all of that will only cost you $23. That's right, $23. And then, going forward, you're getting half off of the non-surgical spinal decompression. So I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. So call them today. Here's the number, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Former President Bill Clinton hospitalized. Details coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So, I don't know. I've been really wrestling with this, but I think I'm going to do it. Years ago, the people said, you got these great stories about things that just happened in your career, and you should write a book. I mean, Ken, you've said that so many times. Well, the truth of the matter is I did start writing a book, and I think I'm going to finish it in retirement. And if anybody cares to listen, but I thought it might be fun since I'm in a move to geese a little bit, and I remember way back when, that kind of stuff in my last couple of. I thought I would read you an excerpt from that book.
Yeah,
and as yet unpublished book. And the one I think that we've talked about it, you and I, Chris, have talked about it, and I think the one that I'm going to read is about the war that I waged against our competition in Amarillo, Texas, because as I mentioned earlier, we hated each other. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you some of the things that I have done.
Ooh.
Against those guys.
Didn't involve a trident, did it?
No, nothing like that. But I'm telling you, I did some things that, in retrospect, I'm a little bit of ashamed of. But they did horrible things to us as well, and it was bitter. It was a feud like you can't believe. So, with your permission, if you're interested, hang around, and after we say hello in the next hour, I'll read you Chapter 2, News Wars. All right, it's 59 minutes past the hour. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Real quick in Murfreesboro, last-minute holiday shoppers, you might face some delays if you're trying to get to the avenue because police have blocked off the entrance there near the Longhorn Steakhouse. They're investigating an accident involving a pedestrian there in the parking lot. You can use the other entrances. Everybody in Murfreesboro knows how busy it is there. So those other entrances are going to be backed up, so pack your patience. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. We're monitoring the situation with former President Bill Clinton, hospitalized this afternoon with fever. 78 years old, Clinton admitted to Georgetown University Medical Center this afternoon for testing and observation, according to his office, which says he remains in good spirits and deeply appreciates the excellent care he is receiving. Clinton has had several health issues over the past 2 decades, mostly related to heart problems. Right now in Middle Tennessee, Metro Police called to HCA Healthcare at 25th and Charlotte this morning for vandalism to its sign, which people reported had the words "deny, defend, and depose" written on it, spray painted on it. The same words found written on the bullet casings after the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York City, December 4th. In New York City, the suspect in that December 4th crime, Luigi Mangione, appeared in court, entered a plea of not guilty to state murder and terror charges in that fatal shooting. The 26-year-old charged with 11 counts in the indictment, including first-degree murder in furtherance of terrorism. Mangione's attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilio, said during the proceedings she's worried about her client's right to a fair trial.
Like every other defendant, he's entitled to a presumption of innocence. But unfortunately, the way this has been handled so far, his rights are being violated.
Elsewhere in New York City, police have identified a man they say set a woman on fire inside a subway train as 33-year-old Sebastian Zapata, a Guatemalan citizen who entered the U.S. illegally after he had been previously removed in 2018. It's unclear when and where he re-entered the U.S. He's formally charged with murder now. Authorities have not identified the victim yet because she was burned beyond recognition. But Tennessee U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn weighing in on WTN's The Drive with Brian Wilson this afternoon.
It is an example of what happens with an open border policy, and it is what happens when you have sanctuary city policies. It is what happens when people are saying defund the police and cutting the budget of our law enforcement agencies.
Here in Nashville, Specialized Investigations Division detectives seeking the public's help to identify the people involved in a shooting December 9th. A white Dodge Challenger came back, and somebody in that car shot a 61-year-old man in the ankle after that man had confronted them for doing burnouts and donuts in front of his home, almost hitting a child. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Lebanon, a crash reported by TDOT, Highway 109 southbound at Leeville Pike. West Nashville, crash reported, Charlotte Pike near I-40 West. Then we got Charlotte Pike near American Road, Gallatin Pike near Conference Drive in Goodlettsville. Madison, accident with the right lane blocked, 65 northbound after Old Hickory Boulevard. And then on the South Loop downtown, an accident blocking the right lane, 40 westbound right near the 24 split. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon, everyone. 7 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the next to the last show. I hope that you'll be with us tomorrow as we got a lot of fun stuff scheduled. I think you'll really enjoy it. We're going to be dumping the regular music we play. We have some special music lined up, and I just think it's going to be a good show, and I think you'll have a great time. So try to listen on the radio if you can. I think you'll get the full benefit of it, especially toward the end. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Because I'm feeling very melancholy and I've been thinking a lot lately about some of the great experiences that I've had. I thought it might be an idea. I wrote a book a few years back, and I haven't finished it. I'm going to finish it in retirement and see if anybody wants to buy it. Because every time I would tell some wild story, some wild newsroom story, Ken Weaver or Chris Webber would say, hey, you really should write a book. And people have always been saying that. And so I started writing it, and I thought you might enjoy an excerpt from the book.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are you in for it?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, as I mentioned, my first television job, I started in radio in Odessa, and then I won some awards, and I ended up getting the notice of, even though I was only 20 years old, and most of my friends were in college, I got a job as a television reporter in Amarillo. And it was my first TV job, and I loved it. Had a great time. But I hated our competition. I hated it with a burning passion that burned deep within my soul. And they hated us. It was pretty mutual thing there. So this chapter is chapter 2, called News Wars. We hated them. We despised them. On every level, we were better. We were quicker, smarter, more versatile, talented, and a sight better looking. And yet they routinely beat us like we were rented mules. In the late 70s, the Channel 7 Pro News team was the perennial number 1 in the Amarillo market, a fact that baffled us. Their anchors were fat. Their reporters were dull. Their newscast was largely unwatchable. And yet, when the ratings were released by the AC Nielsen Company each quarter, they stomped us like insignificant bugs. And I took this far too personally. Not only were they butt ugly and untalented, they played dirty. This point was driven home to me shortly after I arrived in Amarillo. Because I was one of the only reporters who liked to operate the live van, I was often recruited to engineer important live shots. The van was a beast. The bosses wanted to make sure it was visible as it moved around town, so they painted it an eye-popping shade of green and plastered a huge, bright yellow 4 on its side. It was affectionately named Kermit 1, and I loved Kermit. I adopted it as my own personal news vehicle. I drove it home at night, and it sat in my driveway in all its big, green, frog-like glory. I can't imagine that any homeowners association would allow that today. On one particular day, I found myself on the 5th floor of the Potter County Courthouse running camera for my friend Ken Byral, who was awaiting a verdict in a big murder case. The van was chugging along in the parking lot below, its antenna beaming our live picture back to the station. It had taken me the better part of 2 hours to string cable between my camera position and Kermit. But by mid-afternoon, everything was working perfectly as we waited on the jury. At 5:45 came word that a verdict was about to be handed down. The timing could not have been more perfect. If everything went according to plan, the story would lead our 6 p.m. newscast. I double-checked all my connections and tested the video and audio one last time. Everything was good. Ken was in the newsroom and would rush to the camera as soon as the verdict was announced. We were in the right place at the right time, and our competitors were not. 5 minutes before air, however, I heard the panicked voice of our chief engineer as it squawked across my walkie-talkie. "What happened? We lost your picture. Brian, what happened?" I looked around. I had done nothing. My camera was still working, and all the cables were still in place. I was pretty sure the problem was not on the 5th floor. Something had happened downstairs. My best guess is that the stubborn generator had stopped working. It was always dying at the worst possible moment. I needed to get downstairs, and fast. I bypassed the pokey elevators and began dashing down the stairs, taking 3 or 4 steps at a time. As I reached the 2nd floor, I passed a pro news reporter who was walking up. "What's the hurry, Brian?" he asked caustically. I didn't stop to chat. I was moments away from the live shot, and I needed to coax Kermit 1 back to life. Blowing through the courthouse doors and out into the parking lot, I was surprised to hear the generator still running. I couldn't imagine what had happened, but the mystery was quickly solved. Someone, some low-down, rotten scoundrel, had unplugged the video cable from the side of the truck. I had been sabotaged. I couldn't prove it, but I was all but certain the pro news reporter I passed while running down the stairwell was responsible. I was shocked, but there was no time to dwell on it. I quickly reconnected the cable, dashed back up 5 flights of stairs. I was still catching my breath when Ken emerged from the courtroom to do his live report. The live shot went off without a hitch, but afterwards, I was furious. I vowed that from that day forward, anyone who worked for Pro News was my sworn enemy. I would stop at nothing to get even. I would lay in wait and hit them when they least expected it. My first opportunity to exact revenge came about 1 week later. Just about midnight, when the phone rang, it could mean only one thing, that I wasn't going to get much sleep that night. Our news director cut a deal with a guy who worked at the overnight auditor at the local motel. The guy was a scanner head, a hobbyist who listened to police scanners in his spare time. And while we were sleeping, he was supposed to be balancing the books, but he would keep an ear on the scanner and would call the on-call reporter anytime he heard something interesting. If one of his tips turned out to be a story that we reported on the air, he got $25. So it was to his advantage to call us on everything, and he did. It was not uncommon to be called out 3 or 4 times in one night. On this particular occasion, it was admittedly a pretty good story. A sheriff's deputy making a routine stop shot and killed a guy under a train trestle. It had all the signs of being what the cops called a righteous shooting. That is, the deputy had apparently acted in self-defense. But when there is gunplay involving cops, they always act hinky. And when I arrived at the scene, they overreacted and pushed me back 3 blocks and strung up the yellow crime scene tape. Soon, I was joined by other reporters who had been called by their respective scanner heads, including one Pro News reporter that I particularly despised. Also stopping by a few minutes later was one of my newsroom managers who had apparently just exited a nearby bar and had stumbled across the scene while on his way home. I pulled him aside for a quick conversation. Look, we're not going to get any pictures from this vantage point. The shooting occurred down the street beneath the train trestle. It was sort of under. The road went down underneath the trestle. I'd like to gamble. Are you game? I could tell my boss, even in his possibly inebriated state, was possibly running the percentages in his head. He knew that if I stayed with the pack, I probably was not going to get much, so he nodded his consent. Follow my lead, I told him. We returned back to the police line to do a little acting for the assembled throng of reporters. I'm telling you, boss, this is BS, I said loudly enough for the entire group to hear me. The cops have pushed us so far back, we're not going to get a thing. And I'm not staying out here all night long. You guys can waste your time if you want, but I'm going home. With that, I started walking back to my station wagon parked about a block away. My boss put on a pretty good act as well. Wilson, you be in my office first thing in the morning, he yelled without missing a beat. He huffed and he puffed and he muttered under his breath, and then he also walked away. The other reporters stood there slack-jawed. They couldn't believe that I addressed one of my bosses in such a manner, and they couldn't believe I was going to leave. Of course, I had no intention of leaving. When I got back to my car, I drove around the corner to the nearby Santa Fe rail yard. I found a guy working the midnight shift and asked him when the next trains were scheduled to arrive. The tracks, he told me, would be clear for a while. Mind if I borrow your trestle? I asked. Knock yourself out. I started the elaborate process of strapping on the camera. First, I buckled 2 massive battery belts around my waist. One powered the camera, one powered the light that I would need to shoot at night. I hoisted the 28-pound RCA TK76 camera on my shoulder and the bulky video recorder on my left. I was probably carrying about 70 pounds of gear as I waddled onto the trestle in the darkness. When I got there, I carefully peeked over the edge, and I could not believe my luck. There below me, illuminated by the high-beam headlights of a squad car, was the whole scene. The body covered, the crime photographer was going about his grim task as a group of deputies and police officers huddled nearby conferring. They did not know I was there. I focused the camera on the scene below and carefully framed the shot. I wanted to make sure that everything was just right before I turned on the light. And that's when all hell was sure to break loose. I would only have a few seconds to get the images I would need to tell the story. I took a deep breath, steadied the camera, flipped on the light. Instantaneously, the heads of everyone below whipped around in my direction. Hey, get down from there right now, a deputy screamed at the top of his lungs. I ignored him, kept my eye in the viewfinder, continued to roll tape. Two deputies started climbing the concrete embankment to the top of the trestle. As they approached, I turned off the light, removed the camera from my shoulder. I had a good 20 seconds of videotape, and that would be enough. It was certainly more than my competitors had. With one deputy on each arm, I was roughly escorted back down the embankment. Loaded with gear, I slipped at one point and braced against one of the deputies to keep from falling. In the process, I dislodged his clip-on tie. It pissed him off. He screamed something about how I had just assaulted an officer. He threw me in the back of a squad car, but amazingly, they neglected to separate me from my camera gear. And as soon as they had their backs turned, I grabbed the camera, braced it across the front seat, and resumed shooting. Now I really had great footage. When the sheriff showed up a few minutes later, he asked his deputies why they had a TV reporter in the back of his squad car. They argued I had entered their crime scene without permission and they intended to press charges. The sheriff pointed out that, well, technically speaking, he was above your crime scene, not in it, and that they should release me immediately. I thanked the sheriff, gathered up my gear, walked back the 3 blocks to where the other reporters were still waiting. Good night, guys. See you round. The pro news reporter was furious. He knew that he would have to explain to his boss the next day why he had been scooped. He was so angry that he threatened to kick my ass right there in the middle of the street. There was a nose-to-nose screaming match, but the other reporters broke it up before any punches were thrown, and it's a good thing because he was one of the few reporters in town big enough to do some damage. I would like to tell you that the news war ended right then and there. I would like to tell you that, but it wouldn't be true. That's the end of chapter 2. Thank you. Thank you.
That's a great story.
Well, there is an asterisk to this story.
Yeah.
And where I really got even with them. And after the break, if you don't mind, it's just a short passage. I'll tell you, as they say, the rest of the story.
All right.
20 minutes now, past the hour of 5 o'clock. Well, you know, it's the time of year where you try to take assessment of where you are financially and what are you going to do next year. And maybe you want to know if your investments are in the right place so that you'll have money when you want to retire. If you're in that position, you're not alone, but there are steps you can take now to be better positioned regardless of what happened. You deserve the confidence to know that no matter what's going on with the economy, you have a plan that helps keep your financial goals in line with your life's priorities. So if you're in or nearing retirement, Beacon Capital Management has a free retirement-ready toolkit just for you. You'll get a Money Enough for Life book, a retirement planning checklist, and a Maximizing Your Retirement Income white paper. Good information here. No cost, no obligation, and absolutely no pressure. You're going to be glad you did this. Call this number, 615-488-9303, to get your free Retirement Ready Toolkit. Again, 615-488-9303.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
A former president admitted to the hospital. Vandalism in Nashville seemingly glorifying a United Healthcare CEO's murder. We'll tell you about it at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Ken Weaver there in the newsroom. Chris Webber in the control room. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and I hope you enjoyed that little story. Did you, Ken Weaver? I know that you understand this because you've been that guy.
Oh, I could see it.
Yeah,
I could visualize it.
Well, good. That makes it good writing, I suppose. I don't know, but there's one little coda to the whole news war thing. It's in another chapter that I wrote about being a helicopter reporter in Amarillo. And, we had an advantage because our competition didn't have a helicopter. And the speed limit at that time was 55 miles an hour. And the Texas Panhandle is a huge place. It's like the state of Ohio. It's the same size. And so if we were flying and they were driving, we always had the upper hand. But sometimes you really wanted to ram it up their tailpipes, right? So we had flown over to a little town called Dalhart for a little community rally. We flew the helicopter in and landed it right in the end of the high school football field where the rally was taking place. The organizers were so thrilled that we were there with our chopper that they agreed to pause the event when it came time for us to take off and return to Amarillo. We would be back at the station in time to lead our newscast with the story. And I had calculated that my competitors who were driving would probably just get a little video in at the end of their newscast. Having shot all the tape I needed, for a full report, I gave the organizers the signal that we were ready to take off. My pilot and I walked back to the end zone to load up. And a couple of friendly young neighborhood boys tagged along, completely fascinated by the massive helicopter that had literally landed in their backyard. "We love action news," the young boy offered. "What about those guys that work for Pro News? What do you think about them?" "Oh, we hate those guys." My mind raced as I quickly hatched an admittedly evil plan. "Hey, if I were to give you guys $5, would you sneak over there and let the air out of one of their tires?" "You betcha," they replied in unison. My pilot was aghast. He couldn't believe that I would suggest such a thing, that I reminded him that it was the Pro News guys who were probably responsible for a complaint that had been filed recently with the FAA when we took the helicopter to lunch. My pilot said, "Do what you have to do." He turned to begin his pre-flight check. I gave the kids $5 and made them swear that if they got caught, they would never tell a soul who put them up to it. We flew back, cranked out our story that led the top of the newscast. To the best of my knowledge, the Pro News team did not make air with the story that night. And I do have a conscience, and as much as I hated Pro News, I started to feel a little guilty about what I had done. I decided I would keep it to myself out of fear that the story would circulate and get back to the folks at Channel 7. So fast forward 2 years, I'm now working at News Center 10, the third-rated station in the market. And one day, while we were sitting around in the newsroom scarfing down some fast food, the reporters started telling various wild stories about their news-gathering exploits. And during this bull session, someone asked, "What's the worst thing you ever did to one of your competitors?" Well, a couple of people offered mildly amusing anecdotes. And against my better judgment, I jumped into the discussion. I began to recount in great detail about the night I paid 2 kids to let the air out of a tire on the Pro News car. I told the story with characteristic flourish, using my best Texas storytelling skills to make it an amusing tale. Everyone in the newsroom was doubled over with laughter. Well, almost everyone. I noticed that my news director was turning 9 shades of red. Mark Robertson Baker was a bearded mountain of a man. He had a volcanic temper, and I quickly sensed he was about to blow. "You SOB," he began, his voice trembling with anger. "I think you have forgotten one important detail." "What's that, Mark?" I asked cautiously. "You forgot that I was the reporter covering for the story for Pro News that night." I blanched. In my rush to tell my colleagues a good story, I had forgotten that the man I snaked that night in Dalhart was in fact now my news director. Mark was just getting started. He knew every curse word that had ever been invented, and when he got wound up, he could use each and every one of them in an effective tirade that would peel paint at 50 paces. This butt-chewing was unlike any I'd ever received. He pounded on tables. He kicked trash cans. He repeatedly impugned the reputation of my sainted mother. And it was weeks before he could look at me without cursing under his breath.
That's too good.
You got to remember the details of the story before you start telling the story.
Yes, you do. Especially when it's the news director.
Yeah, as they say, good times. 5:30 now on Super Talk 99.7.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, former President Bill Clinton is in the hospital. His office says the 78-year-old had a fever. He was admitted to Georgetown University Medical Center for observation and testing. His office says he's in good spirits and appreciative of the excellent care he says he's getting. The man accused of setting a woman on fire on the New York City subway yesterday is officially charged with murder. 33-year-old Sebastian Zepeda, a Guatemalan citizen who entered the U.S. illegally after he had been previously removed in 2018. It's unclear when and where he re-entered the U.S. He's formally charged with murder, but authorities have not identified the victim yet because she was burned beyond recognition. Here in Nashville, overnight vandalism on HCA Healthcare's sign that reads, "Deny, Defend, Depose," which is what was written on bullet casings at the scene of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson's murder December 4th in New York City. Channel 4's Dryden Quigley on video that shows it happening here in Nashville.
There's cardboard taped in place now, but earlier today it fell down, revealing the words "Deny, Defend, Depose." Security video from just across the street captures it being written around 10:40 last night.
She says you can see a figure sneaking up on the sign on the corner of 25th and Charlotte Avenue North, and after a couple of minutes, that was what was left on the sign. HCA says security of its employees is top priority, and it's working with police to investigate. Also in Tennessee, a bill has been filed to allow local schools and public charter schools to display the 10 Commandments on school property. Smithville Republican State Rep Michael Hale, the sponsor. Coffee drinkers, you might have another reason to pour that extra cup. Here's Dave Packer.
Researchers say more than 4 cups of caffeinated coffee daily may help reduce the risk of head and neck cancers. The study finding a 30% lower risk of mouth cancer and significant protection against throat cancers for heavy coffee drinkers. Decaf had some benefits too, while tea drinkers saw mixed results.
Experts believe coffee's antioxidant and anti-cancer properties could be behind these findings. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a crash in Goodlettsville right now. It's at Gallatin Pike North near Conference Drive. Glencliff, right 2 lanes blocked. 24 eastbound near Briley Parkway. And then in Rural Hill, we've got a crash. Mountain View Road at Bell Road. Lebanon, crash at Highway 109 southbound at Leeville Pike. And then here on the South Loop downtown, 40 eastbound at 2nd Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, you hear me talk all the time about the Wellness Institute of Nashville and Dr. Kevin Mitchell and Dr. Ashley over there, good people who can help you with your back pain or whatever pain is causing you a problem. And as much as we wish it were true, there is no pill or spinal cream that takes care of the problem. If you have a back issue, it's pressure on a nerve, and that means you got a couple of options. One of them is surgery. And the other is non-invasive spinal decompression. I chose that route, non-surgical spinal decompression at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Their state-of-the-art facilities will get the job done for you. And they're offering half off spinal decompression treatments and half off the KT knee machine. If you're a new patient, you'll get an exam, a consultation, and your first treatment, and that only costs you $23. So I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call them today. Set up an appointment, 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It is 37 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair, and that music means it's time for the three amigos. There in the newsroom, amigo number one, Ken Weaver. Hello, Ken.
Good afternoon, boys. Yeah.
And there in the control room, pushing the blinky buttons, it's Chris Weber.
Warmest of greetings.
Warmest of greetings. And I'm Brian Wilson. Together we're the three amigos, and we bring you some kind of weird story, and then sometimes we get to finish it. Sometimes we get diverted because because squirrel.
Yeah.
We never know when something's going to catch our attention. We go off on as they say, on a tangent. So that's the whole idea. But I want to ask you, Ken. I was just reading, some stories about some of the exploits when I was a young reporter.
Yeah.
And some of the things I did to my competition, and believe me, they did some horrible things to us as well. But did you ever have a situation like that where you hated your competition?
We did. We did it to fire ourselves up because in Tulsa, our competition was basically I worked for a country music cluster.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then our competition was news talk. And so our cluster depended on news to make it to scenes first.
Right.
And
getting to the story first was all, traffic laws be damned, right?
Yes. And I remember one time I had, again, made it to the scene first. It was a homicide. However, how I had done it is overnight, I would record up a couple of hours of just kind of some evergreen news, and I'd just ride around Tulsa in my vehicle and then follow the scanner.
Nice.
The only problem is I apparently gave the DJ the wrong cart. And one of my newscasts
The cart was a little sound, is like an 8-track that
Like a
we used to
tape,
put. We used to record things on, right?
Yes, it apparently was a newscast which I had blundered and then let fly an expletive.
Oh, no.
And while I'm at the scene, one of the reporters for said station said, "Good luck keeping your job, Weaver. Did you hear the 3 o'clock?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And he told me the word I'd used.
Oh, no.
I was okay, though. Apparently, it was overnight, and not too many people noticed it.
I had a very similar thing happen to me in my early days in radio. Remember, we used to have these big reel-to-reel recorders?
Yes.
And when we used to trade stories with other radio stations. We used to do that all the time. So, for example, over in Midland, we were a top 40 rock and roll station, and over in Midland there was an easy listening station, which is 20 miles away. Midland was, close enough that we wanted to know what was going on in Midland as well. So they would cover Midland, and they would give me all their Midland stories, and I would give them all the Odessa stories, right? So and we traded, and you'd get on the phone, and then we record. So they would say, you would start the recorder. So one morning, I'm rushing to get a newscast ready. It's first newscast of the day, and my Midland guy called and he said, "I got a murder." I said, "I got nothing, but I'm going to roll the tape, and just hang up when you're done, because I am way behind." So I hear him go, 3, 2, 1, and he started to tell this story about a murder in the tall city of Midland. And he goes on, but when I got done and get ready for the newscast, I said, "That's the best thing I got." I re-racked the tape. I backed up the tape, got it to 3, 2, 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you pause the tape, and then so I didn't even normally, like you say, you put it on a little cartridge tape, but I didn't have time for that.
Yeah.
So I opened up the news. "Good morning, everyone. Time for the news at 7 o'clock. A murder overnight in Midland. Steve," well, I'm not going to say his name, "has the story." And I push the button, and you hear him go, "Well, last night police say blah, 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 blah." And about 15 seconds into the piece, he goes, "Well, he said the S word." He bungled a word, and he said the S word. And then you hear him go, 3, 2, 1, and he does it again. And so, of course, I was drinking coffee. I spewed it all over the window, when this, and I was coughing and sputtering and trying to regain my composure. And the disc jockey on the other side of the window did the smartest thing he could have ever done. He put all the phones on hold.
Yep.
And so anybody called in, I guess they just thought, well, somebody else has already called in, so I won't bother. But I mean, the phones, I'm sure, were lit up, and this was my hometown. I mean,
Right.
they're people that I went to church with, listened to that radio station.
Yes, sir.
And I was sure that I was going to get fired. But my boss, being, either if he knew about it, he never let on that he knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to be careful about that. We didn't have the 10-second delay that we have now.
No, we did not at all. I mean, like I said, we were music, so there was no delay. It was on.
Okay, Chris, your worst radio story.
I was thinking while you guys were talking about stories, I've really never experienced anything that was that wild. Now, we worked in a building back in Georgia similar to this. It was a cluster of stations where there's different stations in the same building. And our news talk studio was right next to the rock and roll studio. And they had a disc jockey that worked in the afternoon drive. And this guy was as volatile of a human being as I've ever been around. I mean, he was one of those that was real soft-spoken when he was, just in his normal mood. But when he got mad, he was the explosive type. And he loved to slam and throw things. And with their control room being right next to ours, like we shared a wall, when he would get really PO'd, he would go off. He would leave the control room to leave the building to go out and smoke or whatever, and he would slam the control room door And one day he slammed it so loud it knocked us off the air.
Oh, no.
I don't know what he did, but he dislodged something when he slammed the door. That's how hard the door slammed. And we were all, I knew he had slammed the door because I could hear him yelling before he did it. And then I heard and felt the door slam. And then we were off the air for probably 15 minutes or so before they ever figured out what was wrong with it. But really, that's the only thing I can remember that was just like one of those what happened sort of moments. I guess I've been lucky because you're telling that story about the news wars, and I'm thinking of Anchorman, the movie Anchorman.
Yes.
And I'm like, this stuff actually happened.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I got to tell you, when I got to Washington, finally we in Mobile, when I worked in Mobile, for example, there was competition, but I mean, I didn't like the guys that were on my beat, and I always wanted to beat them with a story.
Oh, yeah. Just the competitiveness, yeah.
But it never got to the level that it did when I was in Amarillo, and people were pretty nice,
Yeah.
And when I got to Washington, D.C., I couldn't believe that there was really none of that. And if you had a great story that you wanted to make sure that you got the scoop, right, especially in television, you've got to wait until 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock to get it on the air, right? So you're hiding that scoop all day long, not wanting anybody to know about it, so that you can get on the air with it first. I remember when I worked in Washington, at first, the only newscast we had was at 10 o'clock at night. It was an independent station. And we did one newscast a day, and that was in the evening. And so I went out one day to do a story. It was about a man who had died. It was a feature story, wasn't a hard news story. Man who had died and left all his money to his dog. And I came up with some really clever, what we call a stand-up to go at the end of the story, right?
Right.
And so where I'm sitting in front of the place where we'd done the press conference, there'd been a little event, and, because there'd been so many people calling about this that the lawyer got everybody together, did a little presser, and explained what was going on. And we saw the dog and all that kind of stuff. And I was doing my stand-up at the end, where you say something obvious, and then you put the call letters in there. You tell them, a television news story, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them what you told them.
Right.
That's so the stand-up is always telling them what you told them. But I always tried to find something clever, especially in a light feature story. So I can't even remember what the line was, but it was a good one, and I was so proud of it. And the guy from Channel 4, who worked for the NBC affiliate there in Washington, said, that was a great stand-up. I'm going to steal it. And he took my stand-up and repeated it word for word.
No!
And I couldn't do a thing about it because he came on earlier than I did.
Oh,
he came on at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was that story. Everybody thought he was brilliant. And I had to shoot another stand-up because I knew that it looked like I was copying him.
Oh, man.
Might have had to have a couple words with that.
Yeah, well, I was new to town. I didn't want to start a fight, but that's about one of the dirtiest things.
That was dirty.
To take it's intellectual property, by gosh, and he stole it. But yeah, we used to have so much fun actually doing television and chasing stories
back in the day, dude.
Yeah, hanging out at crime scenes, and going to city council meetings, and hanging out with cops after work, and it was very different there. And I talked about my news director being volatile. There was no HR department at KFDA TV when I worked there.
No.
And if you screwed up, you were going to get a butt chewing like nobody's business, up one side and down the other. And most of the time that you got in trouble, it was over getting scooped by somebody else.
Yeah.
How did you cover the same story and miss that element to the story?
Right.
And Mark was especially, I'll never forget. I mean, I literally, his trash can had been kicked so many times that it was just one big, dented round thing that sort of resembled a trash can.
Yeah, whenever they were still metal in the newsroom.
Yeah, and he would kick that thing and it'd land back there in the back of the newsroom.
Yeah.
And, and then we'd go pick it up and pick up all the trash and,
coffee spill out of it.
Yeah. Can you imagine that happening in a newsroom today without somebody filing a formal complaint?
You'd be gone.
No.
You would absolutely be gone.
Yeah, if you said something, they'd say, well, if you don't like it here, my friend, there's the door. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Give me the keys to your news car, right? All right. 50 minutes now past the hour.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A former president in the hospital. Details coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, we actually probably should get a little news coverage in here this hour since we've been farting around all this whole hour. Donald Trump really this weekend really got down to business at this big event in Phoenix. I mean, he made more news about the things that he was going to do. And when it comes to this craziness about gender, are there more than two genders? Apparently, there's some people, you got your L, you got your B, you got your T, you got your Q, you got your plus. And I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. Well, he said we're not going to have any of that nonsense when I take over. He said we're only going to have, we're going to have, hold on a second, I'm sorry. I hate it when that happens. We're only going to have, in a Trump administration, we're only going to recognize that there are two genders.
With a stroke of my pen on day one, we're going to stop the transgender lunacy. And I will sign executive orders to end child sexual mutilation, get transgender out of the military and out of our elementary schools and middle schools and high school. And we will keep men out of women's sports. And that will likewise be done on day one. Should I do day one, day two, or day three? How about day one, right? Under the Trump administration, it will be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. Doesn't sound too complicated, does it?
A lot of the Democrats they get very uneasy about this, of course, this stuff that Trump is going to be doing on day one. One of them who is not, however, is Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania, who I'm coming to like a lot more. He said that when over time his problem with speaking would get better and his problem with understanding what people said, and it apparently has. I mean, because I watch him and he's not the same guy that he was when he took office. And he says, I think people should be careful on our side of the aisle about talking about people who support Trump as being fascists.
It's not a word that I would use because you put a lot of Democrats, especially in my state, that I know and I happen to love people that are going to vote for Trump, and they are not fascist. And also fascism, that's not a word that regular people, use.
So he's saying, let's back off a little bit. We're not going to be, give him a chance to run a little bit and, back off on some of this more extreme rhetoric. And he's right. I mean, that's what Democrats need to do. The problem is they just can't help themselves. They literally cannot help themselves. There's something about Trump. I guess, they call it TDS or something. There's something about Trump that just sends them into the stratosphere. And they act irrationally. They don't get him. That sometimes he's making a point, and is he going a little too far to make the point on occasion? Yeah, but they take everything he says so literally, and a lot of times what he's saying is meant to make people stop and think, or it's said in jest, and they don't get the fact that it's being said in jest. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Democrats react. Do they continue to do the things they do because they can't help themselves, or do they follow the advice of Fetterman and say, maybe we ought to just, stop and think about our problems? Because the Democrats have got a bunch of them to begin with. It's 59 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
$6 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast, traffic updates in 5 minutes. Former President Bill Clinton hospitalized in Washington, D.C. Stephen Portnoy with the latest.
A spokesman says the 78-year-old former president was admitted to Georgetown University Hospital here in Washington for testing and observation. The aide says Bill Clinton has developed a fever, but is in good spirits and receiving excellent care.
Right now in Nashville, vandalism at a major healthcare company. Channel 4's Dryden Quigley says security cameras recorded someone tagging a sign at HCA Healthcare last night around 10:40.
Here you can see a figure sneaking up on the sign at the corner of Charlotte Avenue and 25th Avenue North. Another angle taken at 10:41 captures the person next to the sign for about 2 minutes while they seem to spray paint it. Early next morning, commuters could see deny, defend, depose. HCA says security is their highest priority, and they're working with local law enforcement to investigate.
Now, the suspect in that case in New York made another court appearance today. Here's Dave Packer.
Luigi Mangioni's plea in a New York State courtroom Monday to murder and terrorism charges was the same as it was in federal court last week. He's being charged in both cases with allegedly killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson earlier this month. Outside the courthouse, a group of supporters of the suspect, one declaring free Luigi, another comparing Mangione with Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, and Jesus Christ.
Elsewhere in New York, the man who police say set fire to a woman on the subway last night is officially charged with murder. 33-year-old Sebastian Zepeda, a Guatemalan citizen who entered the U.S. illegally after he had been previously removed in 2018. It is unclear when and where he re-entered the U.S. Authorities have not identified the victim yet because she was burned beyond recognition. And with less than a month before leaving office, President Biden commuting 37 of the 40 death sentences on federal death row to life in prison without parole. Elizabeth Schulze reports only 3 men now remain on federal death row, including one of the Boston Marathon bombers, then 2 mass shooters.
He's been under a lot of pressure from civil rights groups, from religious groups, law enforcement to try to take these actions. Just a couple weeks ago, he commuted 1,500 people in one single day. That was a record for any American president in modern history. A lot of those were convicted of nonviolent crimes like drug offenses. And of course, you can't talk about President Biden's acts of clemency without mentioning his unconditional pardon of his own son, Hunter.
President Biden also expected to meet with the Pope in person next month. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a crash 24 eastbound near Briley Parkway. The right two lanes are blocked. And then we've got Mountain View Road at Bell Road. In Berry Hill, 65 southbound after Armory Drive. South Loop downtown, still looking at that crash 40 eastbound at 2nd Avenue. Got 140 westbound on the South Loop. That's at 4th Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good evening, everyone. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for one more hour, and then tomorrow we'll be here for one more day. And then the drive gets put in the garage, and we'll siphon all the gas out of it and start breaking it down to sell for parts. That's right.
A lot of money in scrap these days.
Yeah. Just the scrap metal alone, I could get $40, $50. Who knows? We'll have a really good show tomorrow. I think I have no idea what might happen, but I'm going to text Pete Hegseth tonight when I get off.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And I'd say, hey, Pete, last show, brother, why don't you come back on?
Could it be a Christmas miracle?
Yeah, I know. And who knows what might happen. But I've got some fun stuff I've been working on. And by the way, if you follow me on social media, like on Facebook, if you do not follow me there or on X, follow me. Because I want to stay in touch with you and that kind of stuff. So, it's Brian Wilson 997 at Brian Wilson 997, both places. So, follow me and we'll stay in touch going forward. Again, I'm not going to be completely gone because I'll be back from time to time, and you'll still hear my voice on the radio station for a while longer. The way it's going right now is looking real like that's going to be a very good likelihood. I mean, all these other guys. They got to take vacation sometime, And me, I'll be sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, maybe you could, start letting the air out of people's tires so they don't make it into work, so you can jump in there.
You might be careful, Brother Brian, because I think Dan has a month of vacation now. And,
I know. Well, I mean, if I took all the vacation from all the guys, it'd be like a full-time job.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, it'd almost be a full-time job. 4 guys with vacation, and Cumulus is pretty gracious about how much time they give you. So it adds up, 2-3 weeks here and 3-4 weeks there. I mean, when you think about it, Matt Murphy, I don't know what his vacation situation is, but he's been working for the company a long time because he worked for Cumulus
in Birmingham.
Yeah. So he's been with, I think, 19 years. I think that's right.
Yeah, so probably got 6 months off. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much time he's got. So these guys got to take vacation. I'll be filling in, but doing other stuff as well. We'll have some stuff I think that you'll find interesting in the days ahead. Okay, that's all I can say right now. Let's get down to some news. This thing in New York. Oh my gosh, what a horrible situation. A migrant from Guatemala who was arrested in connection with the heinous death of a woman set on fire and burned to death on a subway train in Brooklyn on Sunday, was previously deported. The man's name is Sebastian Zapeta, 33, arrested by the Border Patrol in June of 2018 after he crossed illegally into Soenita, Arizona, He was deported by the Trump administration days later on June 7th. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement spokesperson Marie Ferguson told Fox News. Ferguson added that Zapata then re-entered the U.S. illegally on an unknown date and location. See, that's the thing. They just, when they come across the border, some of them want to have that interaction with police. Some don't, especially, with the Bidens in the Biden years. They want to get that, and so they get, waved on in. But people like this guy know that if you wait until the patrol, Border Patrol and ICE are busy handling a bunch of people who came across the river in the morning, in the afternoon, there's nobody out patrolling because they're over there doing paperwork. That's how people come in. There's no telling how many people slipped into the country playing that little game. This is absolutely one of the most heinous, horrific things I think I've ever read in my life. Surveillance video showed the suspect calmly approaching the woman who was sitting motionless and may have been sleeping while aboard a stationary F train at the Coney Island Stillwell Avenue subway station, and then setting her on fire. The clothing became fully engulfed in a matter of seconds, said New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, describing the case as one of the most depraved crimes one person could possibly commit against another human being. And then listen to this. The suspect then sat on a nearby bench outside the train car and watched as officers and a transit worker extinguished the flames. The woman was pronounced dead at the scene. Suspect was arrested hours later, riding the same subway line. The depravity of this horrific crime is beyond comprehension, and my office is committed to bringing the perpetrator to justice, said the DA's office. This gruesome, and it was gruesome, and senseless act of violence against a vulnerable woman will be met with the most serious consequences. Every New Yorker deserves to feel safe on our subways, and we will do everything in our power to ensure accountability in the case. I commend the NYPD for their swift work in apprehending the suspect. This is what happens when you don't have a secure border. This is what happens when you open up the border and you say, come on in. Trump is right when he says that many of these countries have just emptied their prisons and sent them to America. We don't have to pay for them. We don't have to feed them. We don't have to incarcerate them. We'll just send them to America, and it's no longer our problem. You know that in some of these middle America, Central American countries, many of these countries in South America, other parts of the world, their crime rates are going down. It's really, that's true. Trump's not making that up. And this weekend in Pennsylvania, I'm sorry, he's not in Pennsylvania, he was in Arizona. Wow. He said, we're going to get right to it. We're not going to waste any time getting down to business starting January 20th.
Your border is a disaster. Your border is a disaster, what's going on. And you just have a few days to wait. We're going to be fully operational, I would say, by about 2 o'clock on the 20th.
He's dead serious about it. He's gonna make sure that the order returns to the border.
On my first day back in the Oval Office, I will sign a historic slate of executive orders to close our border to illegal aliens and stop the invasion of our country. And on that same day, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Press secretary, or soon-to-be press secretary at the White House, will be Caroline Leavitt. She describes how they may go about it.
Well, securing the southern border, perhaps looking at Title 42. Many of these executive actions are still being considered by our policy teams and also our lawyers.
So no wasting of time. They're going to get right down to it, and I'm glad. He's got a border czar. I would love I would love to catch up with this guy and just follow him around, because Tom Homan is wound up and ready to go. This guy is champing at the bit, ready to get in there and start getting busy. Now, he doesn't have an official government job. He's a czar. He's a border czar. And as such, he doesn't need to be confirmed. He's just going to overview the efforts within the Trump administration to set this situation right.
Well, look, this is another example of an illegal alien killing American citizens. It's almost a daily occurrence now. You know, because historic number of criminal aliens walking the streets, because of this administration's policy in sanctuary jurisdictions and lax immigration enforcement. ICE has their hands tied. Secretary Mayorkas have given them priorities that they can't even go arrest an illegal alien anymore unless he's convicted of a serious crime. Then maybe they can arrest him. So this is on this administration. As far as Governor Hochul, shame on her. She supports sanctuary status in that state. She welcomed thousands of illegal aliens to her state. She sent them to Buffalo and Syracuse. Murders occurred by illegal aliens in Buffalo and Syracuse. She has a green light law. ICE and CBP can't even work with local law enforcement. Local law enforcement can't even share DMV data with these people. So Governor Hochul, shame on you. There's nothing you can say that's going to make this right in New York.
Nothing you can say. And by the way, he's really irritated with Mayorkas, who was doing an interview this weekend trying to explain how this thing got so out of control. Doing an interview. This guy really... his behavior as the Secretary of Homeland Security has been, I think, criminal. I really do. And what about all the missing children who've been exploited? Oh, he tried to explain that this weekend in one of those Sunday morning talk shows.
We certainly have received reports of children being trafficked, even those as to whom we know where they are. That is outside the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, we investigate cases of trafficking. But there are children who are reunited with a parent here in the United States or a legal guardian, and they move, and sometimes the government loses track.
It's nothing but lies. Nothing but lies. Border numbers aren't down. They're just putting them through the CBP One app and the CHNV app. You add those programs together, what Border Patrol's catching the gotaways, we're still at historic numbers. They were bragging the other day that ICE has over 247,000 removals, the most in a decade. No, they don't. If you look at the data, 80% of them were Border Patrol apprehensions that ICE just simply put across the border. ICE interior enforcement numbers are historic lows. And as far as the children, another lie. Under his guidance, under his leadership, first of all, it's his policies that caused over 500,000 of children being smuggled in this country, trafficking in this country, and they lost track with 340,000 of them. His lips are moving, he's lying, and he needs to be held accountable. Nothing he said in that interview is truthful.
Turn Tom Homan loose. January 20th cannot get here soon enough. It's got to be a monumental change in the nation. It's amazing how much having a different president means and how things can change. Literally, they can start to change overnight. Some of the things are changing now. And he's not even in office yet. He's already having an impact. Meanwhile, brain-dead Joe Biden has commuted federal death row sentences of 37 out of 40 inmates that are on death row, the federal death row. And some of these people are horrific individuals. Outgoing President Joe Biden, writes the Populous Times, has continued his momentum of reckless clemencies, this time commuting the sentences of 37 of 40 federal death row inmates condemned for various grievous crimes. The fact that 3 were excluded from the commutation showed that Biden did apparently draw the line somewhere, and that makes it look even worse for him considering how reprehensible the crimes committed were of those he just saved. They include individuals convicted of killing children, police and military officers, and wiping off complete families. Biden's communications aim to prevent the incoming Trump administration from carrying out the executions. Trump was considering extending the federal death sentence to child traffickers, drug dealers, and individuals who kill law enforcement officers. In good conscience, I cannot stand back and let a new administration resume executions that I halted, said the president in a brief statement from the White House. Biden explained that his commutations were part of his efforts to reduce violent crime and ensure an effective judicial system. How does that help all of that? I've dedicated my career to reducing violent crime and ensuring a fair and effective justice system. Today, I'm commuting the sentences of 37 of the 40 individuals on the federal death row to life sentences without the possibility of parole. Listen, I'm sorry. I think most Americans, if you were to ask them, would tell you that they are totally in favor of the death penalty. In 2021, Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland imposed a moratorium on federal executions, citing various reasons, including racial disparities. 15 of the commutation recipients were black, 6 were Latinos, 1 was Asian, the rest were white. The 3 individuals exempted were also white. However, Biden's commutations exempted individuals involved in terrorism and mass murders involving hate crimes. Those commutations are consistent with the moratorium of my administration as opposed on federal executions in cases other than terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder. So, he drew the line somewhere, but it seems like the line, quite frankly, should never have been drawn in the first place. 21 past the hour. Hey, listen, good wishes and a Merry Christmas from the entire family at Busy Bee. William and Brandon want you to have a great holiday. And think about this. They have a limited number of 1 1/2 to 3 ton split heat pumps for residential unit replacement for only $6,995. That includes labor, equipment, material, and warranty. This system offers a great balance of energy efficiency and year-round comfort for residential homes. Or how about a $69 mainline camera inspection from the outside cleanout, or a free package upgrade for air duct cleaning? You buy one level, and they'll automatically upgrade you to the next level. For example, if you buy the middle tier package, say, they'll automatically upgrade you to the premium air duct cleaning. Get a $500 gift card after installation of a whole home main water or drain pipe replacement, or a whole home water or drain repipe. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee HVAC, your Rude Pro partner, 615-775-7833. Learn more at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Hope you're having a great holiday and getting ready for Christmas here. We're going to have a sort of a pre-Christmas show tomorrow, and it'll be the last show. I hope that you'll try to be here tomorrow. I mean, like, I really get it that it's Christmas Eve and you got a lot of things to do. You got packages to wrap and things to do and stockings to stuff, and Santa Claus is going to be coming, later that night. So you got to be ready for all that. But I get all that, but I hope that you can be here for the last show. We're going to have a lot of fun. I ask people, what should be my sign-off song? And some of you were way out of line.
Wow, I'd like to see those suggestions.
Well, I mean, the first one that came, a lot of people that I thought was out of line was people said I should play Johnny Paycheck, take this job and shove it, which that's wrong. That's just wrong because I'm not leaving upset. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I really love my Cumulus family. I'm not that person. And so I've been thinking about songs. So if you've got an idea, there's still time to get it in. Just go to my Facebook page, Brian Wilson, at Brian Wilson 997, at Brian Wilson 997, and you'll find it, and and make a little suggestion. Now, there's a lot of obvious choices here. Now, and so things that have been done.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can think of 5 things right off the bat that are pretty obvious.
So you're not going to do those?
No, I'm going to do some.
You're going to do
no, but not all of them. But I mean, but so far the recommendations have been pretty good. Every once in a while, there's a gem. I said, well, now I haven't thought about that. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
And so so I'm going to put them all together in one big extravaganza at the end of the show. So anyway, if you got a really good, sort of inventive idea, I mean, like people said, I did it my way. I'm not gonna do that. That's just too obvious. Yeah,
that's pretty good though.
Yeah, it's good.
What about that old one? How's it go? So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night.
That wouldn't be a bad one. That wouldn't be a bad one.
It's not a great one, but
no. But there are a lot of great things. And I thought about doing what I did when I first got into radio. I worked the midnight to dawn shift, and we signed off at, I worked actually the evening shift, and we signed off at midnight. And, I mean, we actually turned off the transmitter at midnight. Nobody does that anymore.
No,
the transmitters go 24/7, but back in those days, we would sign off. And we would, because we figured nobody's listening, so why are we going to pay somebody to sit there all night long? And so we would play Nights in White Satin with the late lament added, which is that poem, Breathe Deep, the Gathering Gloom.
Yeah, I'd never heard that until you talked about it one time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
The album version has this poem at the end.
Yeah.
Watch lights fade in every room. I still know it word for word because I heard it about 1,000 times. And so at the very end, it's I think the London Philharmonic Orchestra backing up the Moody Blues, and they come to this big, phenomenal orchestral, ending, and then it could have ended right there, but then they hit a gong.
Yep.
Because it wasn't enough.
Why not? We didn't use that. Yeah.
So I thought about doing that, but I thought, well, that's just for me. That nobody really understand that. So we were not going to be doing that.
Oh, all right.
Well, I mean, we could do it earlier, and I could tell that story, but
okay.
So don't waste any time. Just go over to my Facebook page and make a recommendation. You'll see that other people have made recommendations. So don't give me one that they've already given me. Come up with something new. All right. Time for the news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7. I love Christmas music. I'm so glad. We get, people really love that stuff. I mentioned earlier I went to church. We got to sing Christmas carols, and I know Christmas carols. Half the stuff they try to sing, everybody knows it, but me, I don't know any of that stuff. The 3-chord modern praise music, not a big fan, but I love Christmas songs, and so when they start doing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing" and all that stuff, I'm right there, baby. I love that stuff. So let's talk. We got a lot of stuff to ground to cover here. Let me go through some of the stories that we didn't get to yet today. And I think we got a little distracted in the 5 o'clock hour. I don't think we did anything last hour that was newsy at all. We just sort of farted around, didn't we?
That was fun, though.
That was fun. We had a good time. I've made mention of this before, and it really does bother me a lot that people who get food stamps basically can use that to buy a bunch of junk food. And look, if you're in the situation where your finances are such that you need assistance from the government to feed your family, I want you to have that assistance, but not if what you're going to do is buy a bunch of junk food and a bunch of soda. Come on. Buy food that is actually nutritious for your family. And so with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. coming in to lead HHS, he wants to make sugary drinks ineligible for SNAP benefits. And I'm for it. I mean, I'm completely for it. I mean, I like a good Dr. Pepper like the next guy. But if you can't afford real food for your family, then you ought to buy real food for your family and not a bunch of sugary stuff with empty calories. I mean, I generally don't like the government, telling you what to do. But if you're in that situation and your situation is so dire that you can't feed your family without help from the government, then feed your family with real food. Listen to this. Coke and Pepsi lobby to keep sugary sodas in the food stamp program. From the Wall Street Journal, Kennedy, the president-elect's nominee to run Health and Human Services Department, aims to remove soda and processed food from federal programs such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program known as food stamps. The move could have big repercussions for the beverage industry. Lobbyists for Coke and its biggest rivals are pressing their case on Capitol Hill, highlighting the fact that the soda companies are selling more zero-sugar drinks. These, combined with clear calorie labels on beverages, allow consumers to make healthier choices, they say. Soda lobbyists also point to anti-hunger advocacy groups such as Share Our Strength, which argues that instead of restricting SNAP recipients' options, Congress should fund programs that help low-income families access healthier food. Well, if you go to the grocery store where they sell Coke and soda, they also have fruits and vegetables and, real food. Coke is looking to hire additional lobbyists from among a small and exclusive group who have had close relationship with Trump, according to a person familiar with the matter. Lobbyists for the big soda companies are also trying to get in front of people close to Kennedy and Brooke Rollins, Trump's nominee to head the Ag Department, which administers SNAP. Rollins hasn't endorsed Kennedy's agenda, and it's unclear where she stands on the idea of making sugary drinks and food ineligible for food stamps. I don't know. Am I wrong about this? I mean, is it one of those things where I like the idea, but is it really a conservative principle to tell people how they spend their government benefits? I think the government's one that's rights to say that. I really do. It'll be interesting to see how that all goes in the days ahead. The Matt Gaetz story, oh my gosh, is this sordid? It's not good at all. They released the House Ethics Committee report, and now Gaetz says he didn't do anything wrong. Let me just go ahead and get his part out there. He says, I didn't do anything illegal, maybe some things that were unsavory, but here is from the CBS News. They say 6 takeaways from the House Ethics Committee's report. The committee says in its report that there is substantial evidence that Gaetz engaged in sexual activity with a minor, detailing 2 alleged encounters with a 17-year-old girl at a party in 2017 when the former congressman was 35, which would be a violation of Florida's statutory rape law. The committee said it obtained testimony from the girl, identified as victim A, as well as other witnesses who corroborated the allegation. The report also notes that evidence suggests Gaetz was not aware the girl was 17 until more than a month after the sexual encounters. She had just completed her junior year of high school when the encounter occurred. The report says Gaetz maintained contact with victim A, and less than 6 months after she turned 18, he met up with her again for commercial sex. Victim A said she received $400 from Gaetz that was understood to be payment for sex at a party. Gaetz has previously denied these allegations and has never been charged with a crime. I never had sexual contact with someone under 18. Any claim that I would be destroyed in court, which is why no such claim was ever made in court. The report did find, again, substantial evidence that Gaetz paid women for sex. The report found substantial evidence that Gaetz paid women for sex and had others paid them on his behalf in violation of Florida state law. Whew! The report lists payments to 12 different women totaling more than $90,000 between 2017 and 2020 via check or apps like PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. The report notes there was no evidence that sex acts were induced by force, fraud, or coercion. One of the women testified she met up with Gaetz at a hotel where she was with another man and a 20-year-old woman, and there was an expectation of a sexual encounter, after which he gave her a $750 check with tuition reimbursement written on the memo line. She told the committee that on other occasions he normally sent Venmo payments. Reports found substantial evidence that Gaetz used illegal drugs. The report says there's substantial evidence he used cocaine, ecstasy, and marijuana in violation of state law. A number of women understood Gaetz to be a regular user of ecstasy. The report says, while some noted they had seen him use ecstasy and cocaine at different events. The report says Gaetz appeared to set up a fake email account from his house office in the Capitol complex for the purpose of purchasing marijuana. The committee also noted that it received evidence that Gaetz provided drugs to women to facilitate sexual encounters. The report found substantial evidence Gaetz accepted luxury travel in violation of House rules. Lawmakers are required to apply to the committee for a waiver in order to accept gifts that surpass a certain cost threshold. The committee said for Gaetz, a flight on a private plane, lodging, meal expenses, and entertainment expenses on the trip to the Bahamas exceeded the limit. The report found substantial evidence Gaetz used the power of his office to help a sexual partner get an expedited passport. The woman not his constituent, the case was not handled in the same manner as similar passport assistance cases. The report says calling it a violation of House regulations and law. And finally, reports found substantial evidence that Gaetz tried to obstruct the committee's investigation. Gaetz pointed to evidence that would exonerate him, yet failed to produce any such materials, the report says. Representative Gaetz continuously thought to deflect, deter, or mislead the committee in order to prevent his actions from being exposed. Now, there were investigations by law enforcement, and they chose not to bring charges. And that is also true. But I think you need to understand this is the Ethics Committee, not the Justice Department, doing this investigation. This is a committee of pretty respected members of Congress, as far as there are respected members of Congress, but that you get an equal number of Democrats and Republicans. So when they put something out like this, it means that there was universal agreement about from both sides that this needed to be released. Of course, he left Congress and was going to become the Attorney General for about a day and a half until some of these allegations started to leak out, and then he withdrew his name from consideration. Now he's getting ready to do a TV show, big TV talk show, if that contract holds up. We still don't know a darn thing about the drones. More than a month, it says Newsmax, after drones first appeared flying over New Jersey. Little has been said about who might be behind them. Started on November 18th. The drones have caused a frenzy in parts of New Jersey, New York, and neighboring states. Between 4 to 180 drones have been spotted every night since they first appeared, the Asbury Park Press reported. The FAA did issue a temporary flight restriction for drones for over 30 locations in New York State. That followed similar measures taken in most of New Jersey, where only drones being flown by operators with special permission from the government will be allowed until January 17th. There is no known malicious activity occurring, says White House spokesman John Kirby. The DHS, the FBI, and other agencies began probing. Unidentified drones also spotted of flying over 4 military bases used by the U.S. and the United Kingdom. On November 25th, the FBI opened a tip line, pursued every single one of some 6,000 tips it received. No evidence of criminal activity, a national security threat, or a public safety danger was discovered. Interesting. They didn't say it wasn't us. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I think there's something there. I don't think it's complete frenzy, but something's going on. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told Biden that most of the objects were regular manned aircraft or hobbyist drones, nothing nefarious. I think one started and everyone wanted to get on the deal. I don't buy that one iota. I don't know that we have the answer here, but I don't think it was nothing. Maybe some of it was a frenzy afterwards as people started looking, but I mean, at the bare bottom, there are some real questions here about these drones that were witnessed by so many credible people. You got to wonder, exactly what was going on. It is 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Grace Point Healthcare provides affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine known for their Smart Care plans that start at just $69 a month. What you get is free office visits and free basic labs for $69 a month. At Grace Point, you are usually seen the same day or the next day, and there's no long wait times in the waiting room. Grace Point is your primary provider that treats the entire family, from newborns to seniors. If you're feeling run down, or if you have intestinal issues, rashes, hives, or sinus problems, you may have a food allergy. Get tested and learn what foods to avoid in your diet. Grace Point is a military veteran-owned practice located in the heart of Franklin. Call 599-6868 to schedule your next medical appointment. Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Dong, ding, dong. I love Christmas music so much. But, you know, I usually I'm not in the mood to hear it until like a week out. Then I'm ready.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am, too. People that start it too early, and then I'm burnt out on it before Christmas gets here. But
yeah, so, I mean, have you got any big plans for the holidays? You going to be around?
I'm going to be at home.
Yep, that's where I'm going to be.
That's it.
Me and the missus sitting around, you know, figuring out what I'm going to do in this retirement thing. So
I'm
listen,
sure that's already planned out for you.
I have a feeling you're right. I'm going to resist that. I'm just going to find a reason to lose those honeydew lists from time to time.
I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, I know you gave me a list, but I couldn't find it. Then she'll just text it to me, and then I can't deny it. You know,
that's right.
That's the way it works. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. But look, again, I just want to state for people who are thinking, well, he's gone. Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of gone. I'm not going to be doing the Daily Show. Matt Murphy's going to come in here. He's going to do a fine job, and you're gonna be very happy. I think if you don't listen to Matt now, because a lot of people just listen when they get into the car at the end of the day. Maybe they don't listen that much to Matt. You're going to love Matt. He's great. He's fantastic. He's a great broadcaster, and you'll be informed and entertained. But I'll be around doing fill-in work here and now and then, and got some things that we're talking about that I'm going to be doing, and I'll still be doing some commercials for some of our clients who have said they want me to stick around and continue talking on their behalf, and so I'll be doing that. So I'm not going to be completely gone. So you know, don't worry, I'll be around, and you know, I'm hanging out at the coffee shop down here in Watertown.
They'll get to know you real good, huh?
You know, me and a bunch of the guys, we're going to be getting together more and having coffee and solving the world's problems.
That's where the real action is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. At the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
That's where. So you know, it'll be good. And then I'm going to be spending some time doing the Chamber of Commerce thing for Watertown.
That'd be fun.
Oh, I'm telling you, big things are about to happen in Watertown. Big things are happening. So it's one of these things where, you know, I talk to some people and they say, well, you know, we need to really, you know, let people know about Watertown. We need to grow Watertown. We need to be prosperous. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then other people walk up and say, quit talking about Watertown. We don't want people to move here.
Yep, that's right.
And so it's a little bit of both. But you know, listen, it's going to be a fun show tomorrow. A lot of music, a lot of laughter, maybe a few tears. Hope not to. We're going to do Phone Your Farb finale.
Ooh. That's got a ring to it.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be the phone. I think we'll do it. We're not going to do it 1 hour. Not going to do it 2 hours. We're going to do it 3 hours.
Ooh, extra.
Yeah. We'll bypass the Three Amigos tomorrow and just do another round of Phone Your Farb finale.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Fee for all finale. I don't know. We'll come up with something. But we'll do that tomorrow. And then, well, you know, then I have a big send-off at the very end. So, look, I mean, I know you got a lot going on during the holidays. I hope that you will, if you can, be present for the last show. It's going to be, it's hard to believe it's been 6 years and it's already here. And it's hard that, you know, that we began talking in earnest about this not long ago. And I thought, well, I still got plenty of time. Man, it went quick. So it really has. So join us tomorrow. Starting at 3 o'clock for an exciting final show as we put the drive in park and then throw away the keys. I hope you have a great evening. Enjoy your time with family. Be back here tomorrow starting at 3 o'clock.